It's a joyous day, a wonderful day for a podcast, isn't it? Isn't it?
Yes,
I
it
think it
is.
is
I
a
said it
joyous
before the
day.
show already. Feels like yesterday that we were talking, but
It
no, it's
does.
been
Yeah.
less than a week. We of course did the last show on Friday. Next week, spoiler alert, will also be on a Friday
Yeah.
because we have some cool stuff to discuss. But we will talk about that here. How have you been?
I've been good. I went to the dentist yesterday. That's always fun, but they did a
Ooh,
a bang up job. I'll tell you what, like the dentist used to be horrifying. Now they numb you up so good. It's like it's really not that big of a deal. Like I was planning, I didn't eat lunch. This was a mistake. My appointment was at like 1 p.m. So I didn't really eat lunch because I was like, I want to brush my teeth before going to the dentist, and that's just the timelines aren't going to line up great. So I I didn't eat lunch and I barely had a breakfast. And then we went to the dentist. They numbed up like half my mouth because I had a filling when I was like 14 or something that they had to redo because apparently they only last like 10 years. So they were doing that like over here and they numbed that portion. But for the next 4 hours, half of my face from like my eyes down and like probably just a third of my tongue still had feeling. Everything else was completely numb. So I felt like I
no.
was just nonstop drooling and you couldn't taste anything, you couldn't eat anything. So it was a little bit miserable, but
And then you
yeah.
had to eat still, but that was not possible.
Well, my wife Nikki very generously offered to make some of one of my favorite meals, which is a butternut squash soup. And I know that sounds like I'm being silly, but it actually is quite delicious. So
Nice.
she offered to make that, and that was delicious. And right around the time we ate it, I had feeling again, and I could taste it. Because the thing is, when you don't have feeling, you also don't have taste. And weirdly, when like it started to lift, I had feeling again. I could feel my tongue and everything, but I couldn't detect, like my nerves couldn't sense temperature. So like I had a cold drink and I took a swig of the cold drink and this half of my tongue could tell it was cold, and to the other half of my tongue it felt totally room temperature. It was really weird. It was
Okay,
really
that's
weird.
weird.
But kind of cool. Anyway, how was your
Okay,
how
cool.
was your
I actually had like went to the dentist like at the end of last year, and I've always been like after leaving the dentist, I of course hear like should use a toothpick because otherwise things will go bad for you. And I always try it for like 2 weeks and then I drop it. But now I've been actually steady. Yeah, I've been using it every day.
Wow,
It's been good.
good.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
been it first did hurt my teeth, but
It's
you got to
important.
go through it. Yeah, it's a good thing.
Years
It's
ago I went to, like, we were doing a youth group thing and we went to an old like um it wasn't old. It had old people in it, but it was a new facility for old people. Kind of like a retirement home, but for nursing home, I guess is what it technically was. But we went and we were just doing like holiday good deeds and helping out during the holidays, and you'd go and play board games with the elderly there because they're all lonely, and it was a good time. I encourage anybody who has free time to go do it. They love it. But one of the things one of the ladies there told me, she was like, if I could give you one piece of advice for your whole life, she said, take care of your teeth.
oh,
That was her advice for the whole thing. She's like, you don't realize until you start having severe tooth problems just how important it is to take care of your teeth, because you only get one set, and unless you got like 50 grand to get them all pulled and get implants put in, this
yeah,
is the
golden
one
teeth.
shot. Yeah. So yeah, why does
Okay.
Jor look better and better every episode? That's a great question, Dylan, from YouTube chat. Why do you look better and better every episode?
Do I? I don't know. Actually, I was looking at footage, or after the show, or like I was looking at the show, the VOD version, and I was like, why is my webcam so bad? Because next to you, it like when I'm just like streaming, it's fine, but next to you, it just looks like I'm like on a freaking, I don't know, weird old school sort of camera. Yeah, I'm using like a Logitech webcam that is supposedly 4K, but not really. And of course, I think Discord is also not sending out 4K.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I asked you, what do you have? And yeah, that's quite the setup you got. So who knows? Maybe one day.
I told
turn
Jor,
on
yeah,
the webcam.
I gave him the whole breakdown because we have invested a lot in the setup. I mean, obviously, like we have a lot going on here, and it's taken a while to build up. But the common misconception is that it's about resolution. I'd say the first priority is lighting. Turn off every light, get it pitch black in the room, and then set up one light at a time and fill it in. Yeah, boom, step one. You're there already. But it's the lighting, and then also sensor size is a huge deal. Like the thing with those cameras, the Logitech cameras, because I have a couple of those that I used to use. Like I had a bearded dragon I used to have in the studio, and we called it, her name was Khaleesi, and we called it the Khaleesi cam because I put the webcam in her enclosure so we could pop over to see what she was doing through the stream and videos. But those cameras have such tiny sensors that barely any light gets into them. So it, like, of course, color accuracy isn't super high. Like it kind of struggles. But these big cameras, which granted are stupid expensive, they've got much bigger sensors, way more light gets in, and you can really fine tune it. So yeah, it's not to say everybody needs to spend like $4,000 to get a good setup. But if like you take it piecemeal, little by little, you can get a really nice looking setup. It just takes time and some intentionality, you know? Oh, Jesus. Okay, already. You guys are popping off. Stefan first. Thank you. If you set playback speed higher than 1, you eventually get to see what Luke and Jor will talk about before they actually talk about it.
Whoa.
Yeah, it's the magic of YouTube. Yeah, it's crazy. And Spec Ops, good to see you again, my friend. And geez, very generous 10 membership gift bomb. He's pogging. That's the pog. He just pogged in the chat. That's crazy.
Whoa, a lot of gifted
yeah, that's crazy.
Memberships.
10
that's amazing.
Gifted memberships. Thank you, Spec.
Yeah, so I have, do you know the Philips Hue lights? Is that like a thing in the US as well? Like the ones that you can like control with your so I have one of those in my office. So I've been like doing a sort of disco for people that are watching.
I have them in here too, but the sensitivity on the camera is so low you can't see them.
The good lights.
Like I wonder, let's see if this breaks everything, okay? Alexa, turn off studio. Let's see. Okay, so it turns off all the lights. That's like, this is what it's like. You can see my knifey thing in the background. But if I turn on the Philips Hue lights at 100% brightness, this is as bright as it is. Okay, that's how like low the brightness is on these cameras. Alexa, turn on studio. Okay. And then voila, we're back. Isn't that crazy?
Damn, dude, that's even crazier.
Necessary?
Here I am with my app. Just one light switching. Okay.
Yeah, sorry.
Gotta step up my game.
Yeah.
User not known says, I can't wait to see your A3 Red videos. Yeah, I can't wait to
make them. Yeah.
Properly talk. Yeah, make them,
yeah.
A few months away, probably.
People have been asking me a lot, and I'm sure you've been getting the questions too. People are like, what are your most anticipated games for the year? And I think last year, you know, we had a huge calendar that was all booked up pretty much the whole year. And this year we have a lot of games coming, and we're going to talk about some here in just a second, because Xbox is going to be showcasing some stuff very soon.
Yeah, big stuff.
Big, like surprisingly big stuff. So we're going to talk about all that. But one of the games I am actually pretty interested in seeing is AC Red. Not because I expect it to be like a 10 out of 10 masterpiece, but because I do expect it to be a pretty big leap over Valhalla in most ways. And I'm very excited for that as an AC fan.
Yeah, me too. I mean, we talked about it before, but of course, finally dropping PS4 and Xbox One 4 years after those consoles are out seems like a good idea.
Yeah.
Or 4 years after the new ones are out. So yeah, that will already be interesting. And I was thinking about, like, I've been playing Syndicate as well, because I think that they will actually take a lot of cues from that in how the two characters are going to work. Mm-hmm. And I'm just still impressed by the game, by that game. Like the sort of races that you do in that game are pretty cool, and having the train constantly like ride around the map.
Yeah.
It's pretty impressive open world still for being only a PS4 Xbox One title.
Yeah.
And I thought Odyssey, especially in terms of narrative and quests, was pretty exciting versus what we got in Valhalla. So I hope they can manage it. And they have been working on it one more year, or like they got one extra year versus Odyssey and Syndicate.
Yeah.
So
I totally agree. I actually have a video scheduled in our production pipeline. I don't know what it'll end up actually being called, but my placeholder title for it is Assassin's Creed Syndicate: The Forgotten Game, because I feel like it just so often gets left out of these discussions. People just jump straight to Unity or back to Black Flag.
Yeah.
They don't really give it a lot of credit. And granted, I'm pretty biased.
Free also.
Oh, really? Okay. Yeah.
Recently on Uplay, on Ubisoft Connect.
Yeah, I really like it. I also love the setting and the music.
Oh yeah.
I mean, it's ridiculous. I still play music from the soundtrack as part of our like pre-stream, like starting soon music screen. So like I still love that stuff.
I actually like also playing that, and then having played the Mirage sort of black box missions, and then doing the Syndicate ones. Those in Syndicate are like, they're not like, oh my god, but they do have more ways things could go.
Yeah.
Which is kind of sad that we did not see. In Mirage.
But who knows? Maybe, like you said, maybe AC Red is the perfect blending of Syndicate and Odyssey, and an evolution because of a new hardware generation.
Yeah.
I think it stands to be like basically another Odyssey, where I could see that in the running. Maybe get a nod for Game of the Year if it really is that big and epic, just like Odyssey.
And there are just not a lot of other games competing, like 6 nominees. So yeah, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth probably is one of them. Like Black Myth Wukong, I think, has a shot at it as well. So what's left? Like I totally think that an Assassin's Creed game could be nominated if they do it well. We will see.
Yeah.
But in the more near future, we got an Xbox Direct.
Yes.
Oh my god. It was pretty cool to see.
Yeah, there's a lot. We'll jump into that right now. I just want to say thank you also, Brandon, for the $4.99. Question for both of you guys: is March 24 looking more stacked than October last year? Dragon's Dogma, Alone in the Dark, Rise of the Ronin, and the new South Park. Yeah, there actually is a lot. The new South Park game, I'm expecting to be like, play it for 3 hours and then probably never touch it again. But
I'll probably skip it altogether.
Yeah, Dragon's Dogma, I do think that game is one that's going to be much bigger than it appears right now.
They have an IGN first right now, and those videos are blowing up. So people are paying attention finally.
Yeah, I think it shows really well.
Yeah. It just looks very, very cool and has a lot of depth. And that will be the only, feels like in the early, like really RPG game that people can sink their teeth into. We of course have Like a Dragon as well, but that's like for like a certain audience. I think this will be I like Lords of the Fallen even got like quite a lot of attention, and this game is probably going to be way better. So
yeah, absolutely.
We will see.
Okay, so ultimate critique material for sure. I see what you did, Rimmer. Yeah, I gotta get this damn Starfield thing put together first.
But one more thing about the question, like I do think October was still crazier because the quality of those games will probably be higher. Like I think Dragon's Dogma, Rise of the Ronin still are going to be great, and Dragon's Dogma sure has a shot, I think, at a Game of the Year nominee if it is really, if it really knocks it out of the park. But comparing that to Alan Wake 2, Assassin's Creed Mirage, Spider-Man 2, Mario Wonder, like I still think that's like a bigger window.
Yeah. I hope you'll review Dragon's Dogma 2. Yeah, I hope so too. I'd love to. But okay, let's do this kind of the titular topic of the episode. What did Xbox drop, Mr. Jor Raptor? What did they say?
Yeah, I mean, there were. It was really a situation where there's smoke, there's fire, because a few days before this happened, we actually heard some rumblings about Xbox doing a show, and they, of course, last year did one as well around this time, a developer direct, and it's going to happen on January 18th, on the first day, and the big headliner that I don't think any of us saw coming. I mean, we knew that they were going to talk about it in 2024, but yeah, we all thought, okay, it's going to be during their summer event. Indiana Jones, the new game from Machine Games, of course, responsible for the Wolfenstein games recently. And yeah, they will have 10 minutes of game and developer insights and also the first gameplay trailer. So that's pretty cool about this developer direct. Instead of like being a trailer, bam, bam, it's gonna be like a more laid back. We're gonna see the studio, talk to the developers, and for a brand new game that we've not seen before, only like really short teaser trailer. It's gonna be exciting. And like, what do you expect from this?
I mean, for one, I was surprised by it. I think, like you said, we all were we're kind of used to the big stuff just being pushed off, but we're actually going to see that. I'm cautiously optimistic. I'm still unsure if I would prefer first person for it or third person, if I'd prefer them to like hire a voice matching voice actor and try to mimic like Harrison Ford, or if they do just a different, almost like an alternative universe where it's the same character but a different voice and different look entirely. I don't know how they approach it. Heavens knows that they've probably put more thought into this than any of us, so they probably have reasons for whatever decisions that they've made. But seeing them just come out full force and just be like, hey, yeah, we're going to show it and we're going to give you some actual information, that's awesome. I mean, the exact verbiage that they use, as you said, is 10 minutes of game and developer insights, information about the setting and story, and then gameplay. And for a first look at a game, you can't really ask for more than that. Breakdown of the story, setting, developer information, and gameplay. Like, what more could you ask for? So
yeah, I think it's going to be very interesting. I think the first person thing is going to be, because we, of course, Wolfenstein, that first person shooter, like, are they really going to do first person Indiana Jones? While like thinking about this, you of course immediately think of an Uncharted game, which of course we inspired by Indiana Jones. My prediction is that it's gonna be both. Like, Todd Howard is of course a producer on the game, and he already hinted at it being a genre-bending type experience. So I would not be surprised if we have like third-person sort of climbing sections, and then the combat is in first person, something like that. And by the way, I have to go to the door real quick.
Yeah, you're good. You're good.
Package, but back in a sec.
Yeah, it's an interesting prospect to give either like full control of this to the character or to the player, allowing them to switch between first person and third person, or like Jor is suggesting, maybe, scripted sequences where you can actually swap between the two depending on what you're doing. I could see it going either way. I would kind of prefer them specialize in one over the other, but who knows? Because personally, unless it's basically Mirror's Edge, first person platforming kind of sucks. And so Joe Raptor's new camera's here. So first person like platforming and adventuring and free climbing and stuff typically sucks. And so I'm hopeful that we get something that's a little more refined. And it just depends on what they're going for. I mean, if they're just going for Indiana Jones, the first-person shooter, that game's going to be very different than like a third-person adventure game that is reverse inspired by Uncharted. So yeah, time will tell. But the nice thing is, again, like if they just dropped a 30-second teaser trailer that gave us no information, there would still be speculation. The nice thing about what they're doing here is that they just boom, full look at it. They can explain why they're doing what they're doing, exactly what kind of game this is, show gameplay, and there's no speculation. There's no questioning. They just put it out there. It's settled. And I think that's a much better way of going than leave it all unanswered and then risk disappointing people when they get it.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's gonna be fascinating. Like, such a cool way to reveal the game. Like, they could have done a stream only about Indiana Jones, and I think people would still have tuned in. But we get more.
There's
A few more
more?
things though. Yeah. But a few more things. Like I first want to like shout out Bill Prime Gaming for becoming a member as well.
Oh, yes.
User not known says your Raptor's new camera is already here. Sadly not. That would have been insane.
Can you
The
imagine?
algorithm already decided.
Yeah. Amazon's getting really good, man.
yeah, this is insane. Like the delivery man was already waiting downstairs. Okay, it could be coming in this year. That's another big thing.
Yeah.
I mean, why put it in a January show if it's not this year? Like, why not wait till next year then? So that's a big one. That's like a huge get for Xbox at the end of the year, probably.
Yeah, I am also wondering. I mean, I guess we can go through the rest of this, and then I'll ask the question afterwards. So I'll put a pin in it. We'll return to it. The other thing that they've mentioned here in the bullet point is that they're going to be showcasing more Avowed, which of course is the game from the team over at Obsidian. A lot of people have compared this to Obsidian's version of the Elder Scrolls, sort of a fantasy magic first person.
Sort of the outer worlds, outer
worlds, but fantasy, basically.
Yeah. So, but also in terms of scope. So that game was, of course, not like a full-on Fallout, but it still had a lot of those elements.
Yeah.
This is probably that, but for Elder Scrolls, yeah, cool.
Yeah.
And
an interesting thing, they say that they're going to give a deep dive into the gameplay. They're going to show the vibrant living lands. They're going to explain why the game is interesting and also focus on thoughtful reactivity coming to life in Avowed, where players will have agency to make choices to shape every step of their adventure. Again, typical narrative RPG stuff. Really interesting. I think they're fighting a little bit of an uphill battle on Avowed specifically because the initial trailer they dropped all those like years ago looked,
thumbnail you used on this stream.
It just looked great, and then we got the gameplay, and I feel like a lot of people felt that it was a little bit of a not even a downgrade, it just was different
art style. It felt like an Unreal Engine 5 demo, like that first trailer, and then they showed like an Xbox One game or something. In terms of like the graphical difference. I don't know why did they change that, or because like that's of course the sort of downfall from like a teaser trailer like that. Like people's imagination, especially if you don't show what the game looks like immediately afterwards, will run wild, and I don't think people expected the actual thing that it's gonna be. But I do think that if they show like some cool new stuff here, I mean, Obsidian has been killing it, so I think people will be down for it. Game Pass, like people are gonna try it anyways, even if they maybe are not so high on the new graphic style. It is not open world though; it's like open zones, so that also shows you that the sort of scope of the game is not the same as like an Elder Scrolls title, but still I think it could be really cool.
I'm interested, and the nice thing is these games are also not about the graphics. Like you're not playing this for the scope and scale of all of this. I mean, even something like Baldur's Gate 3, once you get to Act 3, you start to get some real, like, weird, sometimes graphical artifacting, like pop-in gets a little crazy if you go to a wide angle. But it doesn't matter because the rest of the game is so good, and the other mechanics within the game are so good that it counterbalances that. And that's why, like, you don't have to have the most amazing graphics to have a great game. You just need a good game. And the graphics are a great addition, but it's what makes games like Red Dead 2 so special, is because they're great games that also have great graphics and stuff like that. So we'll see. I'm glad to see that they're going to be revealing more information. I did see one person, they said, they were like, I want them to showcase Avowed and release it so that we get closer to them just remaking New Vegas. And if that ever happens, I agree. That will be awesome. So they're showcasing Avowed some more. They don't like specifically describe 10 minutes of like gameplay or 10 minutes of game developer insights and stuff. They just say that they're going to show it. So it might be a little bit of a more lean look. And then Aura History Untold. What is this game, Mr. Joel Raptor?
Yeah, it's a History Unvolt, actually. It's the new game from the a studio founded by veterans of Civilization 5. So it's like more of a turn-based maybe game again. So yeah, I mean, not my cup of tea, but I mean that is some like big name to throw out there. So Xbox is going behind that. Oxidi Games. Am I pronouncing that right? Do you think?
Oxide, I think.
Oxide Games, yeah. So yeah, they're gonna show their game and probably Game Pass Day 1 then as well.
Yeah.
I never heard of this game before this post, so I'm
Yeah.
not so sure about it.
That I do.
But,
Go ahead.
oh, no, I wanted to already move on, but
Oh no, you're good. I just saw Irox in chat said that's probably the game that could get shadow dropped. And that's sort of the omnipresent question, is whether they do a Hi-Fi Rush with one of these or one that's not on the list. And
probably not on the list.
Yeah, I think if it's a shadow drop, it's just nobody sees it coming at all. That would be my ideal, because I just love being surprised.
Yeah, and I think it's not smart for a game like this because it won't have the same impact. I think the people that are looking forward to this are already on board, so that it would be like, oh, I can play it today. I think it's building that anticipation for those people is way smarter to hopefully have them talk about it to their friends, blah blah. While I think a game like Hi-Fi Rush that is like a third-person action story-driven game that is like has a way bigger appeal. That is something you wanna like drop. And there are rumblings that Double Fine has been making a new game while Psychonauts 2 was being finished, and that of course was 2021. I think that when that game came out.
That could be cool.
So that those are the rumblings that they might do it. But on the other hand, I do think if they do another shadow drop, then if they do another developer direct next year and it won't have a shadow drop, then that would be like, oh damn, it was a nice show, but where was the shadow? So I'm not sure if they should set that expectation, right?
Yeah.
But if they have it, like, why not? Maybe they had a game for last year and they were like, yeah, why not hold it until this? Because it did help Hi-Fi Rush a lot.
Well, I think you raise an excellent point that this type of strategy game is not the kind where people are like, that's so crazy, it's available now, I'm going to go download it. Like, the thing that worked with Hi-Fi Rush is that it was a very weird, very different kind of game, and it made people curious. And then it dropped today. So go try it now, even though it seems really weird and outrageous. Go try it. And I think something from like Double Fine could work really well because they have weird, wacky games. And if they had something that just would be really surprising, that could potentially captivate the audience in the same way. So I would love to see something from them. That would be awesome. But
yeah,
time will tell. I also get what you're saying about not setting the precedent, because then you're kind of... You're kind of pigeonholed into
you're making it pretty hard. I mean, on the other hand, though, they have like 100,000 studios, so they should have like a one ready every year, you would think, right?
Yeah, at any point, they should be able to just call. Yeah. Can you guys release today? Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
Just go for it.
Yeah. Or like they come to Phil, like, we have this presentation. Yeah, we're going to launch in October. No, I have a better idea. Yeah, but then we have to pay everyone 3 extra months. I got you. I give you the money.
I got you.
No, but Hellblade, speaking of... like, yeah, a game that is also coming, but that I would love Hellblade to be shadow dropped if I could pick one of those.
Dude.
Because I just don't want to see more of this game. On one end, because I just want to play it at this point, and on the other hand, I think the more marketing they do, the less excited I get in a way. And the sort of description they have here, they are going to take us behind the scenes at their studio, and I think that is... we're gonna see motion capture and outer evil. I don't know if that is what this game needs at this point. They just need to show maybe a cool, like, 8-minute uncut gameplay demo or whatever. That would be cool. But like, I don't want to. They're like so interested in their own way of making this game, and they have already showed that with that weird trailer at the Summer Game Fest last year with like the pool, and then
that nobody liked.
yeah. So more of that. Yeah. Woo. Yeah. So yeah, I hope I'm wrong, and I hope that it's very cool. I don't know if it should have been in this developer direct, like, unless they have like a release date at the end. If they don't, then it feels like I don't know,
Yeah,
man.
I totally agree. I loved the original Hellblade. I've been super excited for this one. And yet every time they show it, it's just like, okay, like what? Okay. And I just keep waiting for like the hook, or I keep waiting for the thing that ties it all together, and we just haven't seen it. Like even the trailers and stuff that we have gotten either give us no information, like that one with the reflective pool, or it's just like so, I think unexciting, I guess, that it's just not that interesting. Like with this trailer that they dropped, they show some combat functioning in the game, and it looks identical to the combat in the first game, which was the weak point of the entire thing. Like that it was basically just kind of slash dodge slash parry slash ultimate ability. Like it just wasn't very robust. And so it's a little frustrating to see that seemingly no progress has been made. And maybe there has been progress made, but they've not shown that. And instead they show all of these like self-serving, it's almost like self-congratulatory stuff where they're like, we are brilliant.
I mean, do that after the game is out and everyone is giving it a 10. Like then then you can be like, yeah, we want to know how and then I'm sure more people would be interested, and then more people would be like, yeah, you earned this, right? And right now it feels like we're already in that post-launch period.
Yeah.
While they should maybe just launch the game first.
It's like they forgot to launch it, and they're like, aren't you guys also impressed? Oh, we forgot to, oh man, you know?
It's not out yet? What?
Dave, did you not release it? Damn it, Dave. Like it really feels like that. I agree.
Yeah.
It's so weird, but I hope the game launches. If they shadow drop that one, that would be a prime example of a game that I think could really excite people.
That would like instantly make people want to check it out that maybe would not have given it a shot otherwise.
Yeah,
I think
especially like, and the benefit, I think you either need something with kind of a hook, something that's really unique and wacky like Hi-Fi Rush, where people are curious for that reason, or something so visually impressive that they just want to download it and try it to see how good it looks in person.
or just something so big that you just, did they really just shadow drop this? I can't believe it. And then you're maybe more inclined to check it out. I think that would be so yeah, that is interesting. We will see. That's why we will be recording our podcast Friday, so after this show aired, so we can give our impressions and talk about some other news, of course, in the next week's episode. So tune in for that. Leave the Spotify reviews and everything else that helps us out, so that would be great. You wanted to add one more thing about Indiana Jones, right? I also have like one more interesting thing about that, but
oh no, my thing that I was going to bring up that I was like, oh, I'll wait for later, was the question of shadow dropping, because I was like,
oh, okay,
you know, I know some people are getting ahead of themselves and be like, they're going to shadow drop Indiana Jones. I would say there is a 0.0001% chance of that ever happening. We're talking about Disney owning the rights to it, and Disney, as we learned with Avatar, there are many, many hoops to jump through. So I don't expect them to do anything like that.
Yeah, and then of course it has to be like rated, and then it would have leaked already. And I'm looking up if Hellblade 2 has already been rated. I don't think. Receives R18 plus rating 1 month ago. I mean,
maybe
that's in Australia.
Maybe.
Okay. Yeah, that would be insane, man. That would be insane.
That would be crazy. Okay, don't get my hopes up.
Yeah. No. Okay. Okay. This will probably not happen, but we will see. No, I wanted to like talk about the fact that Indiana Jones will of course be exclusive. And what is interesting about the sort of Disney exclusivity deal, something we learned from Insomniac, is that so they have the Marvel deal, and if the game does not sell 6 million, both companies can like say, okay, we're gonna cut out of the deal. This is not working for us. And I'm just wondering, also with Blade from that the Dishonored team and Deathloop team is of course working on. How does that work? Because you have I don't think that Blade is gonna sell 6 million on Xbox, because I was stunned when I saw this. Starfield was number 31 in the UK charts of 2023. 31.
Isn't that physical sales only though, or is that
I
also
think that's
digital?
also digital. I think that's also
I mean,
digital.
there has to be a like bulleted item in their contract that allows for them to count like downloads, or maybe they have to have 6 million copies or instances of the game that have more than 5 hours played or something like that through Game Pass to track it as well. I can't imagine that they just didn't negotiate that at all.
Yeah, they must, because it is of course like for Game Pass, it's like a really really big get. I mean, the sort of like profit that Marvel is getting from the Spider-Man games is really insane. Like God of War is way more valuable to Sony than Spider-Man because they make all the money. Wow, of course, but like you said, I think Spider-Man having that on the box of the PlayStation console, like as a bundle, and on your console is of course also huge. So I do think they factor in some of that stuff, and probably for Blade and Indiana Jones as well. But it is interesting to see what the deal then is. Like maybe in the month or the day that Indiana Jones comes out, maybe they will do like the early access again, so then Disney gets a lot from that. It is interesting. But yeah, it does show once again, and we talked about it before with Horizon, how when Sony put that game on PlayStation Plus Extra, the sales just went down. Like nobody was buying the game anymore. And now Starfield 31 in the best selling. It was freaking WWE sold more like than Starfield in the UK. It's crazy.
Yeah.
I can't believe it.
But I mean, it's also I am not really surprised by that at all, just because if you can get the game for basically $10 or $15 to download it,
I guess.
why on earth would you buy it?
It's not good though. Like that game must have cost like hundreds of millions, and they're just basically giving it away in some sense.
Yeah.
I do think like way more people would have played it or bought it, because the hype was pretty much there. There was nothing like pre-launch where people were like,
I think the one way that they could push it, and what they did was early access, and I think you're going to see that a lot with big Xbox games. So like Indiana Jones, I fully expect them to do the like deluxe version that's $100. If you buy it, you get to play it 5 days early or 3 days early, whatever. Or you can upgrade from Game Pass for $35 and play it 3 days early. That easy $35 for a big title with a lot of hype around it. A lot of people will do that. And so I think that's the layup. And the other way that they do it for a game like Starfield would have been much more support for modders day one, because you can't really mod very heavily on Xbox, but on Steam versions of the game and on PC versions of the game, you can mod very, very easily. So a lot of people would be willing to just buy it through Steam if that means the mod support's going to be better, but instead they just didn't. And so I think that was another issue.
It is interesting, and it just makes me wonder how these deals are. And I think that also brings us to another piece of news, and that is namely that it seems like we're still in this super early, we're launching all our games day one on Game Pass period for Microsoft, because also, really, if you think about it, last year, maybe the year before with like Halo and Forza, was like the first time where it really mattered. Like before that, they announced it, but then it was like, yeah, but when are you going to bring the games? And they did not. But now they're finally releasing games rapidly. And a tactic seems to be that, yeah, if you own an Xbox PC or something where you can play Game Pass, then you will get those games on the service and early. But now another part of the tactic seems to be, but we will then release those games later on other platforms, because we now have like rumblings from a ton of like reliable leakers that Sea of Thieves is coming to Switch and PS5.
Yeah.
And also Hi-Fi Rush got rated for Switch and PS4. So I would imagine that it's also coming to PlayStation 5. But yeah, that game is of course 1 year old. And there are like two camps right now. Of course, people that are, or I would say three camps. There's like one camp that's like, the Xbox fans that are like, yeah, what we're getting less exclusives now. They're going to other platforms. There's no real reason. They're saying that there's a reason to get an Xbox. Although again, you have to probably pay $40 for Hi-Fi Rush on PlayStation. Still the better deal on Xbox, and you could play it 1 year early.
Yeah.
And you have, of course, the people on PlayStation like, nice. And I think how I want to approach this is like from a Microsoft perspective. I think this is really smart to bring those games over.
We talked about this on stream, and we looked at some people on Twitter that were kind of going over this and were very upset at the prospect of Xbox bringing exclusives to other platforms. But I think those people who are upset about it are missing the point of all of this, and they fundamentally misunderstand Xbox's approach to the business right now. Xbox is not trying to play Sony's game. They've made it very clear to investors. We saw this in the FTC hearing documents and testimony and stuff. They tried playing Sony's game for like 2-3 console generations, and they've lost. Like they're very open about it. They're just like, yeah, Xbox lost the console war, as some people might say it. But that doesn't mean that they're down for the count. And instead, they're going with a different approach that is very different from what we've seen in the gaming industry before, but that we've seen plenty in other entertainment sectors, and then also within Microsoft themselves as a multi-trillion-dollar company. Microsoft sells and distributes software. That's what they do. That's what they specialize in. That's where almost all of their money comes from. So what are they going to do with gaming? They're going to be the ultimate software sellers and distributors, just like they are with Windows and everything else they do. And so for Game Pass, like, yes, something like Starfield loses probably on paper if you just look at the direct money that it brought in versus how much it cost. I'm sure it lost tons of money, but it builds the portfolio. It brings and shines a light on Game Pass. And their goal is to just get people to the point where they're subscribed to Game Pass and they rely on it for their library of games. And that's going to take a little while, just like it did with Netflix. But now there's a lot of people out there that the idea of canceling their Netflix subscription is insane. They're like, what? How would you, what?
Yeah, when the password like crack, or like, yeah, when they were like, hey, if you like share with people that are not inside your house, you can't do that anymore. And then everyone's like, okay, you're gonna lose a lot of subscribers, but they actually gained a lot because people are so,
because they need it.
attached to
It's the same thing. Like people lost their minds when Starbucks said that they were going to be raising their prices, and in some cases it raised the prices of some drinks by like $1 or $1.50, like a lot, like a 20% increase in cost. And you would think you take any product and you increase the cost by 20% and people would stop buying it. But no.
And we also know that Game Pass is kind of flat on console. It really seems that everyone that has an Xbox has either tried it or has made up their mind about Game Pass already, it seems. So they're now looking outside those people. And what if you put Sea of Thieves on PlayStation, more people play it, and I don't know if they're going to do it, but for example, the next update releases first on Xbox, or Sea of Thieves 2, or whatever the next game from Rare is, like, maybe then people are like, whoa, I really want to immediately play that. It's like the Sony PC strategy as well. Hey, we're putting Spider-Man 1 and Miles Morales on PC. Want to play Spider-Man 2? You got to get a PlayStation. So maybe that's also the idea here. And it just makes sense. Like, nobody is subscribed. Like, on Xbox or PC, everyone who was interested in Hi-Fi Rush would have either like tried it already or just did not care and will never care. So yeah, bringing it to PlayStation and Switch in particular, where there might be like a big audience, I think makes sense for it. It does get, of course, interested in that. That's, I think, the point that the sort of more people that are on Xbox are making. It's like, yeah, but then when you walk into the store and you see an Xbox and the list of exclusives that you can't get elsewhere just gets lower, or like less and less, and that's kind of an issue. But yeah, that's just not the game they're playing. And on Xbox, you still have the benefit of having the Game Pass subscription where
Yeah.
you can just immediately play it instead of having to buy everything a la carte. So
Yeah. Well,
it's yeah.
and I think like it just I understand people are upset that they've lived in a world where like, you know, PlayStation has had all these exclusives for so long, and then Microsoft finally gets some, and then they're bringing it to other platforms. And I get how that could be frustrating, but PlayStation has started doing the exact same thing, much to the chagrin of PlayStation fanboys as well, where they brought like God of War. They brought Spider-Man.
And,
they brought all
yeah.
The Last of Us. And what have we seen? Like my brother Jacob, he downloaded God of War, played it on PC. He's loving it so much, he's considering just going and buying a PS5 so he can play Ragnarok. And that's exactly the point.
You should.
And you should, because it's really good.
Yeah. But there's an interesting new element to this, by the way, because Helldivers 2 is, of course, I think the first PlayStation Studios game that's launching day and date. And they had like this blog post yesterday where they talked about the differences between the editions and the sort of like crossplay and all that stuff. And there they also said, you want to play multiplayer on PlayStation, you gotta have PS Plus. On PC, it's free. And people were not having it. Like the comments were really funny, where it was like, "Wait, did I just read on a PlayStation website that I'm getting the inferior version on my PS5?"
Kind of sounded like you said that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's pretty interesting.
That is pretty funny. Where, like, you can tell in the studio, they all talk like that. They're like, "Oh, just play it on PC. You don't have to pay for the extra thing." Like, just do that. But when they're public facing, they have to be like, "Well, with the PlayStation Network, you get so many amazing benefits." So that's pretty funny. I hadn't heard that. That's hilarious.
Yeah, that's of course like something I did not think of. But yeah, the PC version is cheaper than on PlayStation, while it is a PlayStation game. That's kind of insane.
I think live service games, they're of course incentivized to have as many players as possible, because it not just means that more players could possibly spend money on your game, but it also means that the like matchmaking is faster. And if anybody's tried to play Overwatch 2 like at any time other than peak hours, you'll know that it can be a little tough to find matches short of waiting like 5, 6, 7 minutes for matchmaking. So having very quick matchmaking is a really good quality of life improvement, and that comes with just having more players as well.
And the community, of course, like having a healthy Reddit or like YouTubers making content about it that people actually watch. It's like a win-win for everyone. So yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah.
I wanted to quickly do another thing, because I told you also that I have like because it's like night it's like 7 p.m. almost when we recorded here. I have like an HBO True Detective event. I think the series is coming out this week, the first episode. So there's like close by near my house, there's like a cool get together where we can watch the first episode.
Are you wearing a tuxedo?
No. Maybe I should. I don't know. I was once I was going to the Succession event last year, and there I was stopped to be on the red carpet, and I was like, what the heck is this? It was the first, like, I don't feel like someone that is on the red carpet. And
oh, well, speaking of the red carpet, well, do you have to go? Is that what you're? No.
Okay, I wanted to quickly do another the final topic that I wanted to bring up.
Okay, I'll just be really, really quick with this one, because many people sent me this. The Golden Globes happened, right? And one of the biggest shows that was nominated, Neil Druckmann. One of the biggest shows that was nominated was The Last of Us on HBO. Did it win awards? I think it didn't win any, because Succession took everything. But it's still the fact it was nominated was great. But there was this video that went viral of Neil Druckmann standing on the red carpet, and it's so delightfully awkward because there's no camera flashes, there's no sound or anything. I don't know for a fact. I haven't looked up if like they didn't allow camera flashes for other celebrities.
No. It's actually funny, because I watched I was like following the Golden Globes as well, and then I saw like Taylor Swift and some other people that actually won the Globe, and they were like, we can't see it, and then he had to like show it, and there were like a lot of celebrities that I already saw before I saw the video of Neil Druckmann. So then it was extra clear that nobody cared.
Nobody cared. Ah,
which
man.
is really sad.
It is really painfully awkward. And like the reason it went viral is because people saw it and they were like the top comments were people like, yeah, they noticed you, bro. Keep it pushing. He thinks he rolls with these people, finds out the hard way. He does not. I think for a lot of people, this just personified exactly the problem with like the push from Jeff Keighley and other types to get video games recognized by Hollywood, when Hollywood does not care. Like Hollywood doesn't give a crap who the game designers are. They really don't give a crap. They just are there to make their stuff and pat themselves on the back, give themselves awards at these shows, and that's it. The other really funny thing was like somebody watched the Golden Globes and they're like, what the hell is this? Where are the world first? Where's the announcements? World premiere? Where's Kojima and Jordan Peele? Like, it's pretty funny.
It's also crazy that it seems like there are like 10 of these shows for like award shows for TV and all that stuff. So I'm kind of happy that we only have one. And of course, every outlet gives them, but they don't like make a big hullabaloo about it.
Yeah.
I mean, we have multiple, but the Game Awards like the big thing. And now you have the Golden Globes, you have the Emmys next week, and etc. etc.
Yeah. I think if gamers cared more about, like for Hollywood, the weird thing is that it's, for so long, people just like to watch celebrities give themselves awards. And in the gaming space, I don't think it's like that. Gamers are not that into watching designers pat themselves on the back that much. Like they just don't like make a good game and I'll play it. Like there's very few celebrity game developers. I mean, we know Troy Baker, but still, it doesn't get the same because he doesn't look like Joel in the game. So it's not Pedro Pascal. That, I mean, some people really think that. I saw this like video once where it was like one actor. He was like walking in the park and someone was like, hey, didn't you break your arm? And that happened in the show. So people are like delusional and think that stuff that happens in the show actually impacts the actor in real life. They just mix reality and oh man, yeah, it's awkward. But anyway, that was the red carpet thing that went viral.
No, that's crazy. Yeah,
that was quite funny.
Neil, go back to making games. We need you. We don't want another remaster from Naughty Dog.
Yeah, another remaster and then another. I don't know, maybe a spin-off. Apparently they're working on something. Who knows when we'll see. I
wanted to get your take on this because Warner teased more Harry Potter games.
Yes.
I thought this was interesting. So they, of course, have the Quidditch Champions planned, which like a PvP Quidditch game. Seems like a home run to do that. So they're doing that. There was leaked gameplay of it already. They've been doing alpha beta test. It's maybe coming this year. I don't know. But they also said that they have a series of other things that are currently unannounced and will let the fans be part of this world and stories and characters in deeper and deeper ways. Ooh. And this, of course, paired with the fact that they are really like focused on live service games. Hogwarts Legacy sold 22 million copies since release. 2 million in December alone for a game that was released almost a year ago, which is crazy. But still, they are not taking that as like a maybe we should do more single player games. They're like, yeah, but we want all the money and we want people to continuously play it. And I had like another quote here as well. When you ask what our goals are, it's really that macro goal of making sure that we get as much engagement with the fans as possible, using content and releases up. Yeah, using content and releases and updates and live services.
Yeah. I think it makes sense. Hogwarts, like Harry Potter as a franchise, like it's tough to quantify just how huge it is. Like it's up there certainly with Star Wars. It's up there with, I mean, Star Wars is probably the most directly comparable one at this point. Like the thing I always use as an example, what other franchises can you think of where like people make it a part of their personality? Like you look on their social media profiles and they're like, hi, I'm Luke. I'm 26 years old. I'm a father and I'm a Ravenclaw. Like people do it all the time. Yeah. And
Lucas is saying like Lord of the Rings, but that was during that time. But now Harry Potter is like way bigger still.
It's the crazy thing of Harry Potter is that it seems to live Like it seems to just maintain. Part of it, I think, is the theme parks. They help a lot. Part of it is that all of the people that grew up watching Harry Potter are now showing it to their kids, and it's creating another generation of fans. So it just,
and I think it's also less geeky. I think it's like way more female fans are interested in that, I think, than Lord of the Rings, and or is that like maybe a weird
I would say that's
generalization?
probably fair. I know lots of guys that are really into Lord of the Rings, but the moment you bring up discussions about it, people tend to be like, okay, dude. Like, whereas Harry Potter, people love it.
Harry Potter is like, and I think also the sort of premise that there is this magical world in the real world, like it's way more like touchable. I think like it's way more. Maybe it's really out there, you know. And Lord of the Rings, like, yeah, no, sure,
It's
like
full on fantasy. Yeah.
yeah.
It's just a massive franchise, and for whatever reason that is, who knows all of the macro societal things that made Harry Potter so big, but it's still huge. And the whole thing with Hogwarts Legacy demonstrated it once again. And I think it showed that a lot of it still has to be tied into Hogwarts itself. I think the recent trilogy of films was not great, and I think fans were largely kind of disappointed by it. But now you're seeing Warner Brothers be like, okay, we have this IP, let's figure out how the hell we're going to capitalize on this and what we're going to do. And that's going to take the form of a lot of different things. There's rumors about, of course, an MMO. There's rumors about a horror game in this universe, whatever that looks like.
That would be cool.
Quidditch Champions, there was leaks potentially over a Lego Harry Potter game.
I'm just like scared because they tried the mobile or like the MMO Harry Potter thing on mobile a couple of times already, and that was like horrible, like with the amount of microtransactions and stuff. And Warner is known also with Mortal Kombat 1 as like the most recent example that they will go crazy in terms of microtransactions.
Yeah.
So I'm just scared for what this means, and that's why I think that we will maybe look back in 5 years and think Hogwarts Legacy was nice, right?
Yeah.
They did not ask for extra
back
money.
in the day. Yeah.
I would love like an Assassin's Creed model for Harry Potter. So still single player, but add content that way. That would be, I think.
Yeah, I think it was why it was so surprising that Hogwarts Legacy didn't have any aggressive monetization at all, like not even DLC packs and stuff. And while I will die on the hill of saying that collector's edition was laughably terrible, I do think that the value proposition, especially once you played the game and you saw how much content was in it, was more than fair, I think.
I mean, you said it, I think, as well, and I had that as well. When you saw the room of requirement for the first time and sort of the timer, I was like, oh no. Yeah. Like, we need to wait 5 minutes, or you can buy the Harry Potter token to instantly get your potion. Luckily, it was just like
the Ubisoft $5 to have the time that you have to wait and stuff. Yeah, it was surprising that they seemingly were left alone to just make the best game they could. And I'm not sure if that's because they changed their philosophy after Shadow of War, or if it was just because they didn't expect it to be that big of a game. So they're like, yeah, sure, whatever, just make a game. If we sell 1 million copies, great.
Yeah, there's also a new team to Warner. Like they did Disney Infinity before this. Like, but everything was right for this game. It's the only thing that was working against it was the J.K. Rowling thing. But that's nothing that they could have, like that was not part of what they did.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that also, I mean, there was a real concerted effort to get the game canceled, and then to also cancel people who were playing the game. I had people coming into my chat just typing in like the N-word in full into the chat if I had the chat shared on screen to try and get my channels banned. I was like, if you guys are in the right, I don't want to be right. Like if you guys are the good guys, this is pretty toxic, you know? Like it was crazy levels of just insanity. And I think that of course didn't reflect. There were some people that just in good faith were just honestly like, I'm just not comfortable supporting it. And that's totally fair, totally legitimate. My point was that you shouldn't try to ruin people's livelihoods because they disagree with you or because they just want to play a video game in a franchise they've known since they were kids. But
that's right. But yeah, I wanted to like throw out the deeper, like part of this world and stories and characters in deeper and deeper ways, and then I just think of like more hours, more engagements, more like
Yeah.
this doesn't sound to me like an expansion that you can finish in 10 hours. Like
Well,
that does not sound like a deeper way.
I mean, I agree. I think they're looking for all different ways of trying to appeal to different groups of people. There's been things, I forget, we read it recently. There was one guy who was saying that the strategy, maybe it was somebody within EA, but basically they were saying that they needed to come at the IP from all different angles, because some people only entered the city of that IP from certain avenues and they wouldn't access it from others. So you need to have the IP and then provide a way into the IP through live service mobile games, through single player games, through films this way, maybe through a TV show this way. And there's just constantly different ways of interacting with that IP. Depending on who you are, no matter who you are, there's some way of getting your fix. And I think that that's what they're going to do with Harry Potter. There's going to be a ton of stuff for it. Some of it good, some of it absolute garbage. But you already see that. Like, just look up on the App Store, type in Harry Potter, and see the 15 mobile games. Like, it's crazy.
Yeah. And we've always said, I mean, the movie games before this as well, like they were cash grabs, and we all said like we want an Harry Potter open world game where we can explore Hogwarts. And when you make that, people show up. Like I think an Avatar, the Lost Airbender game like Hogwarts would blow up. Like that would be insane. But for some reason, they just give these developers 1 year and the likeness of these characters and go make a stupid game that we will probably sell hopefully 1 million and then get a nice profit and hurt the franchise even more.
Yeah.
While it seems so easy, I think to
it's crazy how just like one person, because usually at these huge corporations there's one guy who's the head of like the interactive entertainment division, and his job is to greenlight games and projects and decide what gets made and what doesn't while hitting profitability targets. And that one person is the difference between getting like Hogwarts Legacy and those really cheap, easy movie spin-off games. It's the difference between getting a really comprehensive, intelligently designed, massive game in the Lord of the Rings franchise, like Shadow of Mordor, and getting something that is like a solid game, but filled with microtransactions like Shadow of War. And so you just never really know if Hogwarts Legacy was an accident or if it reflects a new approach, a new way of doing things.
We're not seeing it with Suicide Squad, though.
Yeah, I think the difference with that is that Suicide Squad is built from the ground up to be a live service game, and Hogwarts Legacy was not.
No.
What I think will be really telling is going to be the Wonder Woman game, which they're saying is not built to be a live service game.
That seems to be the same model as Hogwarts Legacy, I think. I mean, I would be shocked. I don't think they've said it yet, but maybe there won't be microtransactions in that game. It really seems like they're... I do think that I think that what happened was that they had this live service plan, and then microtransaction live service plan. Shadow of War happened, Gotham Knights was already in the works, Suicide Squad, and then they were like, okay, still make it like a game that we can release. Of course, Gotham Knights, we saw that it had like a raid post-launch. They probably had way bigger plans than what the game that we got, which was like way more traditional.
And I think you're right. Like there were remnants in Gotham Knights where it really felt like all of those cosmetics and skins and stuff in the game, because there was just an ocean by the time you finished it. And then all of the crafting materials, it really felt like at one point it was built around like loot boxes or something.
Yeah.
And I did just pull it up. Warner Brothers denies that Wonder Woman will be a service game after job listing, because there was a job listing. Let's see. That brought this into question for some people, because they asked for somebody to have experience in, quote, helping maintain a live software product or game. So people are like, oh my God, it's a live service game. And then Warner Brothers responded to IGN saying, quote, Wonder Woman is a single player action adventure game set in a dynamic open world. This third person experience will allow players to become Diana of I don't remember how to pronounce it, and introduce an original story set in the DC universe while also featuring the Nemesis system. Wonder
Yeah.
Woman is not being designed as a live service. And this is a very different approach to what they've done with Suicide Squad, where they just try not to talk about it. Here they're like,
maybe Rocksteady was like, we can do it. Maybe they had the Crystal Dynamics, the BioWare fever, where they were like, we can suddenly make a game like this. Let's do it.
maybe.
I think BioWare was the one coming to EA as well, because Destiny was the hot new thing, and other people wanted to try that as well.
Yeah.
One last thing about the Suicide Squad, that IGN preview, man.
Yeah.
That was something. I have many thoughts about that. Maybe we'll save that for later. But
I mean, we can get into it real quick because I also made a little video reacting to Destin's article off IGN, and he reached out afterwards. I think he had one hell of a day yesterday. I'll tell you what.
Yeah.
He put that out. I thought it was really well written, really well put together, and I think a lot of people intentionally were misunderstanding his points and frustrations. Because we've been to preview events.
Sorry. Yeah, I have kind of a different take on it though.
Okay. I'm interested to hear that. I just think, just to get it out of the way, in case people didn't see that video I did covering it, he went through like a lot of the frustrations. A lot of them were based in how the event was arranged, because it's a live service game and they were basically given like an hour to go through a tutorial section, which my understanding is probably the same thing people who played the alpha got to try, just learning kind of the ropes of the characters. And then they went and did a section or a couple of missions in chapter 3, I believe they said, where they actually got to use like a higher level version of the character. But it wasn't enough to really get like sink your teeth into it and to figure out really how the game worked, which is a problem with how they designed the event, that they didn't give people a chance to really get a taste for how the live service game worked.
I feel that his like I have two things about that. Like, for one, he never mentioned that in the video. He said it afterwards.
It was in the article. I'm not sure. Like the video, I think they've altered and they adjusted it because that. Yeah,
it's mostly sometimes the same text, but like slightly different then. But I do think that with that in mind, I do think that how harsh he was kind of unfair, I think, because if you know that the game, that you're in this weird thing and that you're constantly saying, okay, maybe we got to play like wrong parts. I don't know if like it really, for me, the preview, and I totally thought some points were valid, but I overall thought that it was really like an internet commenter, and this kind of sounds harsh, but like giving his take on what we thought Suicide Squad was going to be. I kind of missed the sort of, I don't know. I thought like some things like, okay, the Flash boss fight, he had like great points with like the icon that he could not see. That was great. But they were like, this is the boss from Fortnite. Like, why do you have to say that? And like, there were just small things like kind of kicking the game when it's down. Felt for me.
I mean, I would say kicking the game when it's down, that verbiage to me sounds like there's an obligation to be less hard on it when it's not at its best, which is not the job of a journalist. Like, it's not the journalist's fault that they did a bad job of showcasing their game. Like, that's their fault. Like, if I go to a preview event and it like is framed in a weird way, or they show some sections of the game that don't put it in the best light, that's their fault. All I can do is report on what I saw, which was lackluster.
Yeah, but I thought the sort of like it seemed like he already made a conclusion based on that part. Of course, he said like, I hope the full game. He was like pretty harsh on it, and then coming out saying, yeah, but it maybe was the preview event. And then I'm like, okay, but maybe then you should be like, the parts that I played, not so great. Like, I just never. I thought some things were just a little too much, too I mean, rough.
I can get that if the tone didn't strike well. I can understand that. I read the full article. I didn't go through the video that's cut from the article. I just read the full article, and that I thought struck a fair balance in my opinion based on what was described. Because if you play like a mission and you're tasked with going, and I think what he said was saving people from a bus that's like floating through the sky that looks straight out of Fortnite, like the bus that you deploy out of in Fortnite.
Yeah.
I think that's a fair comparison to bring. I don't think that that's like poisoning the well, especially with Fortnite being one of the most successful live service games of all time. Being compared to it maybe is not that bad of a thing. As for other stuff, like
a live service game from Rocksteady was not on my Christmas wish list. Like that was one of his lines, and I was like, okay, but like, I just felt like I would have been way more interested in, okay, and he totally had some very good points regarding the gameplay, but he also said many things that we've also been saying without having played the game, and I would have been way more interested in, okay, but what are they actually trying here, and not what we want, but that this game is clearly not. So I was just hoping a bit more of that.
No, I can see that. I think his approach was to come at it from the perspective of somebody who's a fan of Rocksteady, that loves their stuff and is now being offered the opportunity to play their live service game that they've been spending 9 years working on, or they've not done anything in 9 years. And so he exhibited some of the frustrations that many of us have felt. Like, I felt that, where I'm like, yeah, I'm a fan of Rocksteady. I didn't want this game. I'll try it. I hope it's great. I hope it amazes me and it's my new favorite live service game of all time. But yeah, I'm coming at it from the very start of being like, I didn't ask for this. And I think a lot of their core fans didn't ask for this. And that's why their marketing has been kind of confused, because on the one hand, it's a live service looter shooter, but on the other hand, they're trying to center it all around this narrative, and that it's core to the Rocksteady DNA that's inside this game, that's a narrative game. And so the audience is left like, okay, well, like, but which experiences am I really going to get to focus on? And there just hasn't really been a lot. They showcase all the looter shooter stuff, but they don't show or give anybody the chance to see late game builds,
or the narrative,
or the narrative
I
in any
there's
significant way.
really a lot of stuff there. It's that I mean, I'm not saying that I'm not like defending the game. I just think that if you know that maybe this preview event was not the perfect way to show it, and it's totally on Warner Bros. Like, they spend a ton of money to fly everyone out to have this event. Like, they should sell the game, and we talked about it last week as well. I thought it was a great discussion with looking at the YouTubers that put out a video. All of them are relatively small, and like they are only playing looter shooter games.
Yeah.
Instead of like trying to convince people like us that are kind of skeptical on it. So I thought, like, it's totally on them. I just thought that looking at the other previews versus the one from IGN, it felt like the IGN was a little maybe too emotional or something. Like just,
well, to be fair, there was only one major outlet that had a positive impression of the game. Like, everybody else
Game Informer
came off and was like,
but I felt that they were still like kind of like, okay, but we've only seen this vertical slice, and
to be fair,
there's more.
To be fair, that's exactly what IGN, what Video Game Chronicle, what all those guys said. It sounds like IGN's editors just cut that little addendum out of the video. I'd encourage you to go read the full article, because I feel like, hearing your description of it doesn't reflect what I took from his time, but I think it's because I read the full article that had like all of that extra stuff that probably was cut out of the video, which maybe made it seem much more aggressive than he was, in my opinion. But either way.
I was also looking at the gameplay. Like, I think the UI thing, and that's kind of like, I'm also like,
I was kind of surprised by the rage over the UI, honestly.
Yeah, and it's also with the UI, it's always like, just when like an activity is finished, or where like they of course pick the worst parts, and then they go on Reddit, or on Twitter, and then, this looks horrible. But I'm sure that like there were like damage calculators, and I'm sure you can turn that off. And I don't want to like defend the game, because I do think that this is not good. Having previews out when this should be your moment to recapture everyone. They had a full year because what changed in this year? Mm-hmm. What did they do? So this is not a good look. I think the game will have issues, and we're gonna have big post-launch plans. It will probably die out in a few months. Like I'm sure that sadly that will happen. But I just thought that, yeah, it's just that always that hating on a game that is easy to hate on. That I'm like, I don't know. Maybe we should just not do that.
I agree. I think positivity is always ideal, but I think it's also important to just call it like you see it. And if that paints the game in a negative light, that's unfortunate. But that's why my stance on all this is like, I understand people feel like all of these outlets might have been a little aggressive or dismissive towards the game, because it is frankly pretty rare to have an overwhelmingly negative response, or at the very least, just placid response to a preview event. Normally preview events, they take the best possible slice of the game and put it on a nice silver platter, and the audience is like, wow, that was actually pretty good. And when we get the final game, it's a little bit worse than that, but that's generally what it's like. But in this case, pretty much everybody who went was like, I don't know, it just wasn't very good. And if that's the best they had to show for the game, that's extremely concerning. But I do agree.
Maybe Gotham Knights will be the better game. Who would have thought?
Can you imagine?
Who would have thought?
That'd be so funny. For people that maybe didn't see it, just so you can see it, these are the screen caps of the UI. I have to go now. Okay.
Yeah. You're showing the UI now. Yeah. I agree. It doesn't look great. It's really bad.
But it's always clipped right at the moment, like you said, that they're completing some objective or something.
Yeah, and so then it's like more, but I get it, but we will see. We will talk about it more in the coming weeks.
Well, Joel Raptor, should we do a co-stream where we play it together when it launches?
Oh my God.
Should we do that?
Yeah.
That'd be funny.
That would be funny. I will carry you.
Yeah. I suck so bad. Okay. We'll have a fun time on the red carpet.
Yes. Thank you.
Send us the pictures. Everyone. Yes. Stay safe. Much love.
Yes.
Thanks for joining. Everyone. And then for everybody else here in chat, again, make sure to go subscribe to Mr. Joel Raptor. He's the man, the myth, the legend himself. And I encourage you to go check out his stuff. If you only watch me, you should also be watching him. The thing I love about Joel Raptor is that we can talk about similar games, but we always have slightly different perspectives and different approaches. He tends to see the glass half full, and I just look at it and go, I don't care if it's half full or half empty. It's just a stupid glass that has half of the volume filled. Like I just don't care that much about how we spin it. But he always comes in with a little bit of optimism, and I find that refreshing as someone who can sometimes be a bit of a killjoy for hype and stuff surrounding games. So go check out his stuff if somehow you do not actively watch it. As for these, let me just catch up real quick on the super chats and stuff. Like we said earlier, Bill Prime, thank you for the membership. And Lucas, thank you also for the membership. 2 months, baby. My theory is that the change away from the dark setting is due to Bethesda joining Xbox. They wanted to distance Avowed from the Elder Scrolls. Oh, the dark setting, or the colorful setting compared to the dark setting for Avowed. That's possible. I also think that they decided to go with this art style, and I think that maybe sketched out on paper, it didn't look that bad. It looked fine. It looked colorful and different and interesting. But when you actually put it in the game, in my opinion, Avowed looks markedly worse. I think it's an art style that actually makes the game look worse than it actually does look. It just was a bit of an oopsie. Gian, by the way, my keyboard, this is a Keychron Q6, if you're interested. I saw you put the claim in there, which even goes so far as to say that you're skeptical. Yes, I would. So check it out there. It's a great keyboard. I love it. As for all of this, just to go back to the UI, just to wrap this up, like I was saying, I understand why some people might feel that the UI is particularly bad. This was a clip from Yong. He went through and took some screen caps, and I do agree that it's very busy. There is a lot happening on screen at any given point. I mean, plant corruption, there's a meter there. Oops, wrong camera. There's a meter there. Plant growth progress. There's a meter, there's ABC objectives, there's the players, there's Harley Quinn's voice comms, the mini map is down here. There's like quick commands for pinging stuff or for social menus. There's like the weapon stuff over here, a combo counter, XP tally, talent point counter, health bar, stamina bar. Like there's so much going on at any given time that it can be a little overwhelming for sure. And I would say that that's fair to bring up. But I do think designer must have been an MMORPG player. It's just extremely busy. And coming off of like Arkham Knight, can I just pull up Batman Arkham Knight gameplay? Just a clip of the gameplay from Arkham Knight. Like, look how minimalistic, how simple. Yes, they have the little tutorial thing on screen. If you're popping a tool, it'll pop up for a half second so that you can see how many charges you have down and what's left. And then they have a combo counter and then health point and shield and stuff. That's it. Really simplistic, really minimalistic. And it makes the game look better because there's more screen available to show the game and to put it full force. It's just way cleaner. It's just generally frustrating because I feel like Rocksteady's an amazing developer, but and like Joe Raptor said, it's very possible that they went to the group, they went to Warner Brothers and said, give us the ability to do this live service game. We can do it and it's going to be awesome. And then they just, it wasn't what the fans wanted. It could have been the hubris of Rocksteady themselves. That's very possible. That's very, very possible. Over on Twitch, thank you, GM, by the way. Thank you for the sub with Prime. Appreciate you, my friend. And as for Krenzler, hi, new chatter here. Found you on YouTube. Awesome. I agree. Too many UI elements really take away from the visuals. If you toggle off the UI in any game, it instantly just looks better. That's the thing I love about minimalistic UI. I think it allows you to be more immersed. And that's why really, really busy UI is always a little disruptive to me. There are some games where you can't really avoid it, like top-down isometric RPGs and stuff, like a Baldur's Gate. You kind of have to have it because there's so many abilities to keep track of and to use. You really have to have a lot of stuff going on with the UI. But for like third-person adventure games, it drives me crazy that we have to have all of this stuff going on, Yeah, and Arkham Knight still looks so good. Dude, you're telling me this is the thing about Suicide Squad that's just kind of frustrating is like they did that almost a decade ago. And personally, I don't feel like Suicide Squad looks anywhere near on the same level. Valhalla's on Game Pass?
Assassin's Creed Valhalla.
Amazing. Let's see. Ghost of Tsushima's UI is very innovative. Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, Ghost of Tsushima, the amazing thing they did, if you haven't played it, one of the things you can do is you can swipe on the touchpad on the PlayStation controller and the wind will blow in the direction of your objective marker. So the grass will blow in that direction. The trees, leaves will rustle in that direction. If there's butterflies or birds flying, they'll fly in that direction. So there's no UI telling you go over here. It's purely immersive in the world just through that. I thought that was brilliant. Yeah, so good. I thought about downloading, but it's 120 gigabytes. Nah, yeah, it's big. Jedi Survivor also has very clean UI. Yeah, and that's why it's just live service games and multiplayer games typically have more aggressive UI because you're keeping track of objectives of your party, of all this stuff. There might be comms available there, but doesn't mean I have to like it. So with all that, that's just a general frustration, but yeah, I thought it was unfortunate that Destin got so much hate. It's interesting hearing Joe Raptor's take on his video because I think I just had a totally different take on it. But I think because he watched the video and didn't read the article, that tells me if we had totally different opinions of that impression from that one creator, that probably tells me that there was some issue with the video editing or the what they chose to include or disinclude from the script that separated the two. Because I read the article and I thought it was pretty level-headed and fair. He watched the video and felt like it was overly aggressive and unfair. And so I think that there's probably some gap between those two. Or it could just be an honest difference of opinion. Maybe I just am more inclined to think that you should be a little more aggressive towards games that you look at and preview, and maybe Joe Raptor doesn't. I don't know. Let's see. The thing with, like, I agree, praise the oak. I think I partially agree. I think the difficulty for people saying that take was unfair is that everybody else, except for one group, had the same opinion. They just aren't IGN, so they don't get as much flack for it. Because it's IGN and everybody agrees, you can kind of hate on IGN and it's fine. They get most of the blowback, but everybody else that went, except for one group, Game Informer, had a negative opinion and felt less excited for the game after trying it. Were frustrated by the event, were frustrated by the way that they arranged it, were frustrated by the lack of transparency with late game content. And for me, the biggest, I think the biggest red flag for people currently hyped about the game should simply be, like, if you're okay with the live service, awesome. If you're okay with the battle pass, awesome. If you think that the gameplay looks super fun, awesome. What you should still be concerned about is the fact that they talk about all of these crazy complex builds that you can do, and how over the long term, over the end game and all this, there's plenty of stuff to sink your teeth into. They've never shown it. They could show just a little combat encounter towards the end of the game, or after 100 hours of gameplay, showing a late stage customized Harley Quinn and show side by side, this is where she started, this is where she's at now. But they haven't done that. And I think it's because the numbers are just going to be higher and nothing else will really have changed. Oh, now your grenades do 1.735 times the damage they did before. And your gun now does critical damage on headshots when you're flying and also cracking a joke. And that's just not going to be that interesting to people, so they haven't shown it. I hope the next Insider episode gives us a look at that endgame content. And beyond that, I think the tale of Suicide Squad, though, probably at its core, the biggest blunder that they've made is simply that they did not have an open beta. If they were going to, I think we would have already heard about it. I don't foresee them doing an open beta with like a few days notice. If they can pull it off still, they absolutely should, because this is the type of game, if you give people a taste, and if the opening few hours honestly are pretty good and make a good impression, let players try it and then go from there and try to hook them when the game fully launches. The fact that they aren't doing that might signal that they're worried that if people try it, that they're less likely to pre-order. Red flag, red flag, red flag. You know, that should be concerning. Raiden, also, thank you for the 5. Hey, Luke, have you ever tried Kena Bridge of Spirits? I was pleasantly surprised by it. I have. It is a very pretty, very good game. I thought it was a little too unguided. I thought it could have used a little bit more direction for the player, because there were a handful of times where I was like, okay, what now? But I think it's a good guilty pleasure game. It's actually pretty fun. Let's see. I can't wait to equip a shirt that magically gives me plus 10 power. Yeah, plus 10 power and then plus 1.725% increased headshot damage, like whatever the hell that means. It's pretty stupid that people that don't play live service games review live service games. Well, Reinhardt, apparently Destin has like a long history with Destiny, with other live service looter shooter games. So he is a live service player. He just didn't like Suicide Squad. And I think that that's what's like, It's like I mentioned in the video I did yesterday, late yesterday on Luke Stevens Live, if you haven't seen it yet, where we went through the article. I encourage you to watch it if you haven't, just to see the article in its full context. But in that, it was really interesting because he, I mentioned a comment that I came across where somebody said, I don't know, man, this is fishy. It seems like all of these journalists from all these different groups agreeing with each other that the game is not great. To me, it seems like they're all colluding and they're all talking to each other and deciding to send a message to Warner Brothers. What? So what's more likely? Just let's play it through. What's more likely? That there's a grand conspiracy where all of these media journalist companies are working together, even though the game is actually really good. They're deciding to say the game is bad to send a message to Warner Brothers that they don't like live service games. Or maybe they just didn't like the game. What's more likely? I think it's more likely they just didn't like the game. But for some people, the prospect of the game being like not what they had hoped and hyped it up to be in their minds, that is so impossible to consider. There has to be a conspiracy at the core of it. And that, again, hype makes you stupid. It's that exact thing. It doesn't make you actually like lower IQ. It just puts blinders on and it makes it so you start sounding like a crazy person because you're willing to come up with any excuse to justify your hype, even though you get nothing out of it other than just delaying the inevitable disappointment. Like it's just baffling, you know? It's baffling. Destin is the journalist that wrote the article on Suicide Squad for IGN. Yeah. Copium. Yeah. Full copium. Luckily though, I've seen a big shift in how people are dealing with it and handling the hype. And a lot of people have kind of leveled out, and it seems like people are generally approaching all of this much more reasonably. And, I'm glad to see people are thinking a bit more critically. Unfortunately, it takes like once a year. There's one big game that disappoints a ton of people, like Starfield for a lot of players. And then they become more level-headed and more skeptical. And then after like a year, it wears off and there's another game to get super hyped for. And then they get brought back down. It's a yo-yo that happens all the time. You know, you look half asleep in that video yesterday. Yeah, I did not feel very good. You can even hear it in my voice now. I really don't know what my deal is. I think I have an ear infection that just will not heal. And so I'm thinking I might go and this afternoon try to go to like an urgent care and get all that taken care of, because it's just, I was hoping it would just heal, but I don't think it is. But yeah, it's a whole thing. I didn't like Forspoken at like half price. It has like charm, like the same one when watching Troll 2 or The Room. That's funny. Bringing up Forspoken, like Forspoken's one of my go-to examples for like what goes wrong in AAA game development. And it's always funny because like Joraptor actually kind of likes Forspoken. And so it's always funny to me that bringing it up, he just does not, like, he agrees that it was a flop and that it didn't, like, wasn't received super well because it just wasn't. But he's always been an advocate for the game. And who knows, maybe in like 5 years, I'll go back after my memory's been wiped and I'll try it again. I've tried to play that game. I've tried to play it and enjoy it. Because frankly, having a contrarian view on a controversial game like that, being like, actually, Forspoken's really good and here's why, and doing like an hour-long video on it, that thing would clean up. That would do amazing views. People would love it. It would do great, especially if you have points to make and you can demonstrate your point. I just don't see it. I just honestly don't like the game. It's just not very good to me. I've tried. Sorry, Jacob. I just realized I did not hit stop recording for the podcast. So I'm going to hit stop recording now. And I will let you cut it from that. So we'll do that. What I will do, guys, here's what I'm thinking. I have a handful of things we can go through. A handful. Okay? A handful. And so we can talk about all of that stuff. Like we've got the we were going to do a deep dive in Star Wars Outlaws. We were going to do that. We were going to do a thing where we looked at Phantom Blade Zero. We were going to look at some craziness related to GTA 6. We had a handful of things we're going to go through. I can either go through them now, kind of as like a post part of the stream, and we just clip the Luke Stevens live clips from that, since you guys are already here, or we create a new event and do that afterwards. I think it makes more sense to just do it now, don't you think? Why make a separate event? Why do that? You guys are already here. Sure, the stream title is for the podcast, but I think it makes more sense to just do that, right? Yeah. Just go through it. I think that makes sense too. Okay. So, Jacob, for this, actually what I can do, since you're going to be uploading a separate thing, let me just do this. Let me just change the thumbnail. I'll change this over, and then we will just... Oh no, did it? Oh no, my browser just crashed. Okay, hold on. That's funny. I've never seen it do that before. Okay, I'll change the thumbnail real quick, and then I will change the title, and then we will rock and roll. I want to rock. Okay, change that over. Okay. Did you discuss the Warner Brothers claim that Hogwarts sold 22 million copies in a year? Yeah, we brought it up. And it's crazy. I think it outsold FIFA technically. So it's just the highest selling game ever, which is crazy. It's just outrageous. Not ever. Highest selling game of the year. Sorry, my brain is fried. Let's see. I don't know if it's already talked about this and it's kind of old news, but apparently the guy who created Kratos is not happy with the current direction of God of War. Do you mean Jaffe? Yeah, he has a history of kind of like clickbaity rage bait takes where he says something like really headline grabbing and then upsets people, and then they come to his streams and videos, and it's just kind of like his process. So I usually don't delve into his stuff too much because it doesn't seem like it's really good faith discussions. It just seems like rage baiting, you know. Matt, good to see you. Let's see. Hey, I just finished work and I'm happy to be able to just join the stream. Awesome. Kratos dislikes Kratos. Kind of. Unironically, dude. Kind of. Let me pull up chat here. Okay, here we go. Full screen. Okay, this is probably, sorry, Jacob, new segment. This is probably one of the most ridiculous things I've ever seen, but it is also so brilliant and so funny, and it just exemplifies the magic of the internet and gamers when they put their minds to something. A GTA 6 fan has gone full noir detective to discover a random NPC's sunscreen SPF in the most informatively unhinged way. So, yeah, it is exactly what it sounds like. It's exactly what it sounds like. In a thread on the game's subreddit, they simply ask what SPF sunscreen is being used in the GTA 6 trailer in in-depth analysis. And so this guy went through all of this research, analyzing skin tones, what SPF would be most likely to use for that skin tone. He calculated based on the angle of shadows in that area of the world, what would be the most likely angle of the sun, and then using that data, he can calculate the potential UV impact of that. He also adjusted it depending on the equinox and the likely time of year. And like, you can also look at the amount of people on the beach and infer that it's probably not during the cold months. It's probably during the warm months. And after all of this, so what does this tell us? Well, since it's only possible for our NPC to be exposed to 2 or less hours of UV radiation, and our NPC has a dark skin tone, the sunscreen SPF being used in the GTA 6 trailer is 8 to 14 SPF. Is that not just the most unhinged, ridiculous thing ever? Is that not just crazy? Like, why did he feel this necessary? I don't know. It's just one of those things I love about like Reddit, and then also about fans of these games, is they'll just ask themselves a question, like watching the trailer. I wonder what sunscreen they're using. And then just figure it out. Now, granted, the developers and the designers have no idea. They didn't put this together and like consider, okay, well, what sunscreen should we use for this? They don't care. It's just a can, you spray it on, it's sunscreen, woo, that's it. But it's damn cool that they actually kind of figured it out and came to some sort of answer. Wolfman, I agree. Imagine what he would imagine he would use the skill for something important. I mean, this is what's kind of outrageous. It makes you wonder, like, okay, if this is what just some guy does with his spare time, imagine what people that like are really specialized and good at this type of like investigation, what they do if they do this for a living. You know, if they work for the FBI or if they work for like some bureau of investigation in a certain state. This is the level of stuff that they can get into. It's just outrageous. Like, I remember there was some story years ago where like a guy had, I think, kidnapped someone. Or no, actually, probably the better example would be, this is a throwback. I'll tell you what. Do you guys remember back in like 2016? There was a whole thing that happened where Shia LaBeouf, the actor from like the original Transformer movie, right? He went on this whole thing where he did the "He will not divide us" thing, right? After I think it was after Trump was elected, or maybe just before. It was something like that. Around that time, he did a "He will not divide us" thing where he had a webcam set up, I think in New York City, and he just stood in front of it and said over and over and over and over again, "He will not divide us. He will not divide us. He will not divide," and just did that forever. And then people started showing up and chanting it as well, and it was like an art piece or something. One of the things he did after that was that he went and got a webcam, set it up looking at a flagpole, and then he put a flag on the flagpole that just simply read, "He will not divide us." Okay, really simple. You know what these people did? They analyzed the weather patterns. They analyzed when a plane flew through the frame, comparing that with the shadows being cast, the time of day when that live stream occurred. And they did some ridiculous math, finding flights in that area and all sorts of craziness. And apparently, they were able to figure it out and go and take the flag down and stole it. Like, how on earth you do that? I have no idea. You're looking at a webcam video of a flag pointed to the sky, and they're able to figure out precisely where in the US it is, because most likely it was in the US, right? Like it was not realistically going to be in like China or something, but like, it's outrageous. It's outrageous. But this is like the power of when a group of people put their minds to something and they just kind of figure it out. And with this, like, they managed to do just that, where they were able to look at a really stupid thing in a trailer for GTA 6 and just ask, I wonder what kind of SPF is most likely to be used. I mean, you could have just kind of guessed and been like, probably like this SPF because darker skin, you use this kind, and it's in Florida, it's a white bottle, so it's probably this mineral sunscreen from Sunbum or whatever it is. And you could probably take a educated guess and probably get it right enough that people are like, sure, whatever. But he goes and analyzes the UV radiation, the parallax of the Earth combined with the equinox, like all this crazy stuff to figure out what most likely is happening depending on the UV radiation that's coming in. And it's just ridiculous. It's ridiculous. And I love it. I love it. So what you're going to do with that information now that I've told you, I have no idea. I don't know. Maybe send this video to a friend, share it with someone, and they can do something with that information. I don't know. But there you go. There you go. Somebody figured out what SPF they're using in the GTA 6 trailer. That's all. That's all. Oh, and Jacob, just so you know, go ahead and clip that segment just from this stream. Just record it with OBS or something, because I forgot to hit record. I just hit record. So you'll have the full quality version of the next couple of segments, but for that segment, you'll have to take it from the stream VOD. Sorry. Okay. Next little bitty thing. Actually, this is going to be a pretty big thing if I have anything to do with it. By the way, I forgot to order the Kojima cardboard cutout. I will order it later today, okay? I will. Actually, real quick, I'm going to do a poll. For this cardboard cutout, it will be our next one, but like they have a mini version that's only 2 foot 8 inches tall, so it'd be like be very small. He could sit on the desk with me. Or they have it life size. What should I do? Should I do life size or should I do with like the mini one? Let me do a poll real quick. What size? Life size. Oh my God. Life size or mini? Okay, copy, paste. I want to see. Smaller, I think, could be really funny because you just have like a little tiny version of Hideo Kojima standing on my desk. But, I mean, I'm open to either. Oh, people are leaning towards life size. Stand it up with Todd. They can hold hands and stuff. Yeah, we could do that. You need a Jeff cardboard cutout standing next to him smiling. I'll put them in the closet together. Yeah. I'll store them next to each other. Jeff can finally get what he's been seeking for all these years. A real human connection with Hideo Kojima. Okay, I think life size is going to take it. I think that's it. Yeah. Oh yeah, Stefan, I saw that. SAG-AFTRA agreed to approve the use of characters' voices for AI training, which is weird. They were supposedly marching against this. I did see that too. I found it very surprising that they agreed to that. And apparently the actors are also very confused as to why this was agreed upon. So I don't know what the long lasting effect is going to be if you're going to see people like trying to quit the union or something. I have no idea, but yeah, it was very weird. It was very weird. The actors can opt out apparently. Okay. But I mean, I thought the whole point of the like march against it was that they didn't want AI to come into the equation at all. So it just seems like a weird concession to make, but I don't know. Okay. We'll get the life size version. Don't you worry about it. Don't you worry about it. Okay. Let me go over here. We talked about that. Hideo Kojima, we talked about that. Okay, I kind of want to talk about this. Okay. I think there's a handful of high-profile actors who want to monetize the likeness of their voice, so everything else goes thrown under the bus. Yeah, maybe. It depends on how it's compensated. Like honestly, if you were able to go and like scan your voice in, and then you get paid anytime it's used, I could see how an actor that's not maybe thinking forward to how this makes them obsolete. I could see how they were like, yeah, sure, whatever. Scan my voice in, use it for AI. And like if a video game developer wants Tom Hanks' voice in their game, they can pay a licensing fee to Tom Hanks, and then they, or whatever company scanned his voice in and owns the rights to it. And then he gets paid. He does zero work. He just gets a paycheck for his throat being used for a little while. That sounded weird. But maybe, you know, I don't know. It's just, again, I can see how people could think that, oh, well, that sounds easy. That sounds, yeah, whatever. Who cares? But when you think about the long-term implications, like, okay, now they have no reason to use you ever again. Ideally, like Hollywood's dream would just be to have actors that are purely AI, that are not real people at all, because they can't complain about being overworked. They can't say no to script revisions. They don't have to pay them anything. Like, that's their dream, is to just have these like AI generated NPCs be the actors in all the movies people are watching. That's the dream. That's the dream for Hollywood executives. And the moment you open the door for the AI stuff to come into all of it, it's going to come in. Like, I would not be surprised at all if in 10, 15 years, they're doing entire TV shows that are mostly AI generated. Like, that wouldn't surprise me at all. Not at all. Because that's, it just makes sense. Make movies paying actors millions of dollars, or make movies and pay actors nothing because you're using AI avatars and stuff. Just do that. Of course that's what they want. You know, why wouldn't they want that? So they're going to be pushing for it very hard. It's why it's so silly, like that Troy Baker thing, where Troy, back with the NFT craze, Troy got sponsored by somebody, and then he phrased it really in a kind of toxic way, where he's like, you can either join us in the future and create, or be a hater. It was like, bro, the thing you're advocating for would scan your voice in, like tie it to NFT somehow, and then make it so if people want your voice in their video game, they can just pay that company to get the rights to your voice. Like, you wouldn't, in this world that you're advocating for, you don't exist anymore. Like, you're sold down the river. Like, you're gone. It was just really weird, really toxic. Are you real or AI, Luke? Who can say? If I were an AI, do you think I'd tell you that? Do you think I'd tell you that? They did it alone. Ubisoft is so cringe woke. I feel like I missed something. I don't understand how saying they did it alone is cringy and woke. I feel like I missed something. Audiences wouldn't want AI TV shows, I think. So that's the one saving grace right now, Taco. I agree, is that the audience AI stuff is like so sucky that I don't think it's really that viable. Like, they could put it in shows, but people see it or hear it and they hate it. Like, what was that one show? There was like one show that used like AI fans in a bunch of bleachers or something. You guys know what I'm talking about? I don't remember what show it was. I don't remember. But anyway, oh yeah, they used they because then they don't have to record 2 lines of dialogue. Games have been doing this for like 20 years. If you have male and female characters, or just they them characters, either way, if you use a neutral term, gender neutral term like they, you don't have to record the lines twice. With he went and found Professor blah 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 in the study, and then do another take. She went and found Professor blah 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 in the study. You just have to record it once. Yeah, they went and found Professor blah 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 in the study. It's just practical. Like, not everything is like a woke psyop. Like, sometimes it's just about saving data. Like, can we just calm down, please? Like, I know it's easy to like freak out about stuff, but sometimes it really is as simple as just, oh, we can record 1 line of dialogue instead of 2 or 3, Yeah, do that. Way easier, especially when you have to pay the voice actors or like pay based on the amount that's been recorded. Games have been doing this for like years. Go back and play games from like 2008 and they'll do the same thing when there's an option. They keep it very, very vague. I think even Fallout New Vegas did this. I'm pretty sure they had all the gender neutral language because then they didn't have to record 2 sets of dialogue. Bro, your setup is fine, my guy. Very nice. Cheers. Thank you, Emperor. Thank you. Yeah. But saying they did it alone is a contradictory statement. No, in English, they is just, it's used a lot in English because English is a really sloppy language. It's used to repair awkward sentences all the time. Like, yeah, I was hanging out with my buddy Michael and, at some point, everybody was at the counter and, one of my friends, they went and did this. Like, yes, it's one person, but they can also be used in English because it's a weird, clunky language to also refer ambiguously to singular people. Like it is weird, but people like it's just how English works because English is kind of stupid. Like if you want to be upset about it, cool. I'm not going to get upset about it because I think the whole thing is really stupid. It's a really dumb reason to not like it. A game, but that's just me. There's plenty of reasons to not like some of these games, but when you rely on something like that, you're really stretching, in my opinion. Okay. The show is Prom Pact that you were talking about. Oh, with the AI thing? Hold on. Because it was bad. It was really bad. Prom Pact, AI. That's the number one search. Hold on. Is this it? Oh, yeah, this totally is it. Oh, no, dude, it's so bad. It's worse than you can think. So I guess this is a Disney show or movie or something. And they're like at a school function dancing. And then behind these guys, they just have all these AI like avatars. Oh my God, dude. Look at this one clapping. The fingers like clip. The fingers, it's not even clapping properly. The fingers are like glitching into each other. That's bad, man. That's really bad. This to me, I know people are like, see, it's AI. This I don't think is even AI. This is just really crappy CGI. Like if we're just going to say AI is everything, it kind of loses meaning. This to me isn't AI. This is just crappy CG work. Like, let's be honest. Yeah, it looks like the Madden crowd. Yeah. Man, can you imagine you get in a Disney show, you're so excited, and then this is the one shot that you're in, and then these monstrosities are behind you. Like, I also don't get it. Like, did they just forget to give them higher quality models and stuff? Because the people behind them look real and look fine, but these models are horrible. It's like, what did they think was going to happen? Like, it's just bad. It's so bad. Looks like a meta avatar. Yeah, kind of. Oh yeah, thank you for that. So bad. Would you consider BG3 a good introduction to CRPGs? I mean, the tough thing is if you start with that, every other CRPG is going to feel kind of lame by comparison, unless you really like the setting so much that it kind of adds an extra point to you. Just because Baldur's Gate 3 is like a once in 20 year game, like it's so good. It's hard to quantify and explain. It's not great for like beginners. You're going to need to look up probably some video guides and advice on how to get started. 10 things I wish I knew before I started, stuff like that. Don't be ashamed of doing that because there's a lot to learn. And my big frustration with Baldur's Gate 3 is I don't think they do a good job of teaching the player.
Rodriguez donated $5 through Super Chat. I know you're a Ubisoft guy and more into this space than me. Have you heard anything on Prince of Persia remaster?
Yeah. So, well, Prince of Persia, if you mean the the Prince of Persia game that's coming out in like week, maybe. That game, yeah, I can't really talk about it because I'm playing it, so I can't really talk about it. But what I've said for months is that I like, well, before I was playing it, what I said was that I think the game looks really, really good. It's being made by an amazingly talented team that has won all sorts of awards. I think they're fighting an uphill battle because that type of game doesn't tend to sell super well, just because it's like, you know, the 2D or 2.5D platformer, and I just don't expect it to do super well in terms of sales. But I do think for the types of players that like that type of game, it's probably going to be great. Like I said, I can't go into my current opinion because I can't break NDA, but you know what I'm talking about. You get it. You get it. Jakey, just watched your 5-hour Cyberpunk critique recently. Has your mind changed at all? If so, what about? I mean, I made that video, 2-3 years ago. So I don't remember a lot of specific points. You know, it's like if you had a long conversation with a friend about a video game you played, and you had this conversation like 2-3 years ago. You probably don't remember all the specifics that you went through. You might totally agree with everything you said. You might totally disagree with everything you said, but you don't really remember it. Because like, I don't, in my spare time, I'm not watching my videos. Because that, it just kind of, it still weirds me out. But, yeah, I don't know. If you have a specific point that I brought up during that video, I could say whether I still agree with that or not. But yeah, I'm not sure. Honestly, I'm not sure.
Kappa Claus donated $5 through Super Chat.
Yeah.
Your recent BG3 vid was awesome. Looking forward to the full review.
Thank
you for doing all that you do, smiley face.
Thank you. Smiley face to you too. And I appreciate that. You know, it was just a video trying to go through one of the reasons I really like Baldur's Gate 3. And yeah, it felt good to just make a video about something that I really like. Instead of like, this game looks like garbage and here's why. It was just nice to be able to make a video being like, this game's awesome. I love it. I love it. Sorry. We'll do this. I'll show you this, and then I want to jump into the Star Wars Outlaws thing because we have a lot to go through there. But you guys saw Matt Pat's retiring, that he's stepping away from YouTube. I don't know if he's fully stepping away from YouTube or just from game theory. If I'm sure he's got plenty of money. I mean, I'm sure he's doing just fine, and that he's going to go off and retire, spend time with his kids and stuff. He's earned it. Like, he's worked his ass off for so many years. I hope he goes and is able to relax and, you know, actually take a break. So, yeah, I think it's good for him. He sold the channels years ago. Yeah, he probably, if he did, he probably had some agreement where it's like, I'll stay on and I'll help the transitionary process and I'll work with you guys for 3 years or 5 years or whatever it was. And then I want out. And that's not a bad way of doing it. I mean, I've had companies reach out and offer to buy my channel. Not joking. I had one company, and I won't say who or what specifically, because I mean, they were like private discussions, but I had one company reach out probably like 1.5 years ago, and they reached out and were like, we'll pay for your channel. We'll get all of the long-term revenue. You have to meet certain view targets.
Reaction donated
You'll get a big chunk of change.
$4.99 through Super Chat. In that crowd of people, you can clearly see that there's more people off to the right. So it's like, why did they have no people SITN there?
Yeah. Yeah. No, I agree. It's really bizarre. That the whole thing doesn't make any sense. It makes me wonder if it was like a practical joke that they forgot to edit out, or if they were like placeholders during the they call it previs, where like when they're planning the shots, they have placeholder models and stuff. Maybe they just honestly forgot to take them back out. To me, it didn't look like AI. It looked like that was the easy headline. It looked like it was just really crappy, like really, really crappy CGI. But what else was I saying? Oh yeah, they offered me a chunk of change. In the context of where we've ended up, it was not anywhere near enough. Like I think they offered like $50,000 for the perpetual rights to all income from this channel, and then I would be able to pay. I think they wanted me to like make content on the channel for a year or something. And then they were just going to basically get their money back from sustained views in the back catalog for the next however many years. Just sucking in the ad revenue. And like, not to get into numbers or anything, but $50,000, these channels make a lot more than $50,000 in like a year. Granted, I have like 2 contractors I work with. I have a team of people. I have expenses to pay. You know, we pay out basically like a salary. Like it's there's a lot of money that goes out, but the money that comes in also is well above that level. So I'm glad that they didn't catch me in a time of like financial peril, and I would have had to say yes and then lost the rights to this channel basically. I'll give you about tree fitty. I bet Luke's email is filled with Raid Shadow Legends. I did get asked about Raid Shadow Legends recently, actually. That's funny. Raid Shadow Legends used to be one of the top paying sponsors. They just threw money at YouTubers, and that's why everybody was doing those sponsorships. But in the last like year and a half, their offers are always way below where they should be. I think the last time we got offered something for Raid Shadow Legends, it was like a 10th of what our normal asking rate is. Like a 10th. And when we said this is just respectfully, this is nowhere near where it needs to be. Like, well, sorry, that's what we're paying. Like, okay, sorry, bye. And they just left. Oh yeah, Ethan Klein did that, and then now he's in a legal battle because they didn't pay him. Yeah, it's like initially it sounds fine. Like, oh, we're gonna go do this, and I'll get the big cash payout, and then I'll set it up, and then I can leave, and I'll get my big cash payout. And maybe one day that makes sense to sell a channel and get a huge payday. But when your channel's still growing, it doesn't make any sense at all. Like, okay, you're going to pay me $50,000 today. And let's just say, like, throw out random numbers. If your channel today made like, I don't know, let's just say it makes $50,000 a year, and they offer you $50,000 to like work on it for a year. You're like, okay, so I basically am getting nothing out of this, except I'll lose access to my channel and I'll lose the rights to it. So I get nothing out of this. You just steal my channel basically, and I get paid what I would have gotten paid anyways. So it doesn't make sense. So usually how they would calculate it is that you need to calculate the next like 5 to 10 years of income. You pay me that flat sum, maybe at a slight discount because you have to get something for purchasing it. And then I take that cash and I ride off into the sunset. You get the channel, blah, blah, blah. So like if you make 50,000 this year, next year you make 75, the year after that you're expected to make 100. Like at that point, are you asking 225,000 for the 3 years together? You pay me today, I'll work on it for a year, and then I ride off into the sunset. Maybe that works. I don't know. I've had a finance guy that is part of like my accounting team. He did a valuation on these channels that I own, and he found, based on the projections of where we end up going, he's like, honestly, the value of the channels and the growth potential and stuff were like, they're probably worth millions on paper, because over the next like 5 to 10 years, if we keep growing and getting bigger and bigger, it should get to that point, right? We're not there yet. I'll tell you what, I would love to be there, but we're not there yet. But he's like, eventually it should get there. So if somebody were to buy it off of you, you would ask them for that amount. And honestly, if a company came up to me and was like, hey, would you like $5 million? And then you work for a year and then leave, that would be probably pretty hard to say no to, because $5 million is a lot of money. So that would be crazy, but I don't really foresee that happening. honestly. And even then I'd be like, well, if I'm going to get there anyways in like 3-4 years, why not just do that? You know? Speaking of skepticism, you know what I'm not skeptical of? That's right, Factor. Easy meals for the busy skeptic like me. Dude, unironically, I love Factor. I think I was a subscriber for to Factor, whatever, the company that sends you like the meals and the packages that you microwave for 2 minutes. I think I was a subscriber of theirs for like a year straight, getting like 8 meals a week. I love Factor. I actually think I'm going to sign back up for it because they sponsored me once. I liked it so much that I subscribed myself, and I just kept doing it because it was really nice being able to just eat one of those meals on stream for lunch. Really nice, easy, quick. It was great. The food was really good too. I loved it. They're not sponsoring me right now. I just honestly love Factor. So that's just me. Let's see. Caleb Hammer sold 10% of his channel with a clause that he can buy it back after a certain time. Yeah. And I'm sure he probably got a lawyer to make it like foolproof, and yeah, it's great. Yeah. I mean, honestly, it's not a bad idea. I've thought about doing something kind of similar to do a small business loan if I wanted to get like an actual studio space where we go and rent an actual physical space and set up an editing den, and we have sets there. We could do that, but I also like working from
Reaction
home.
donated $9.99 through Super Chat.
Thank you.
Don't some people negotiate sponsorships for a long period of time? I.e. Tim Pool negotiates his cause. He's focusing more on his own coffee brand and website promoting those.
Yeah, negotiate long-term sponsorships. Yeah, if you can get a long-term sponsorship, like that is ideal. Not many brands want to do that. Sometimes they do. Like my sponsor for my official PC sponsor brand is Apex Gaming PCs. They put this thing together for me, and whenever you buy an Apex Gaming PC, I get some kickback. You know, it's great. It's a very simpatico relationship. But like they sponsored me for a year, so we signed on for a full year. I think our year mark is in February, so very soon. And so they sponsored me for a year. Awesome possum. We're good to go. And for them, it was kind of an investment in me. Maybe initially when they signed the deal, it didn't make a lot of sense, but they believed in me and believed in the channel growing and the videos doing better and better. And sure enough, they have done better and better. And now the buy-in for them was actually quite a bargain compared to what we would ask for now. So sometimes you get brands that are willing to kind of bet on you and invest in you, but it's not super common. A lot of brands don't want to do that. When is the channel on finances coming? Oh, that's one of the ones I want to do. Yeah. I'm hoping because it's just, I love talking about it and we could do it. I think I just have to get much better about the scheduling. I do have the stuff to build the set and lighting and cameras and everything. So I'm ready to go pretty much. I will just need to fine tune the schedule. So like on this day we film this, and on this day we film that. This day we stream. We just have to build it out. That's why having like a studio space might be nice, because like I physically drive to work. I have to be there at a certain time, and you know, it would help it be more professional, I think. Nikki doesn't love the idea of that. She likes me being at home. You know. I feel like I said that wrong. He negotiates short-term month-to-month deals. Okay, yeah. I mean, month-to-month is pretty standard. The one exception is that a lot of brands, if you do like a sponsorship with, say, like a VPN or something, they'll have you sign something saying that you won't promote a competitor for 12 months or whatever it may be, which makes sense. Like if you're going to promote Ziggy's coffee, you're not going to go and then do a sponsorship with Starbucks the next week. Makes sense. Like I think that's totally fair. And if he's trying to build his own coffee brand and stuff, I totally get how it could make sense to just do short stuff with no non-competes and keep those things open. So, yeah. Let's see. Also, to his credit, in the last few years, I was able to reach out to Philly D despite how busy he is and still get advice / direction well after my Maker Studios Puller internship. Oh, that's cool. That's cool. Yeah, I get reached out to a lot. I feel bad that I can't respond to it all. But...
T-Magic Reaction donated $4.99 through Super Chat. I feel like I said that wrong. He negotiates short-term month to month.
But yeah, it's there's a balancing act with all of it. There's no absolute right way to do things, but there are certainly a lot of wrong ways to do things. And if you're getting started on YouTube, or if you ever find yourself in a position to negotiate deals, do not ever do a sponsorship that pays you a commission or an affiliate thing that does not pay you up front in some way. If you're going to do this was a whole thing with, I forget what the company, you remember that PC builder company that imploded because the CEO was a prick and like making fun of their own affiliates and stuff? You remember that one? I forget what it was called. You guys in chat will know. I think it started with an A. Oh crap, what was that called? Artesian, that's right. Artesian builds, they had a whole thing. What was funny is they reached out to me like days before that whole thing happened and they imploded. So Artesian, they had a deal where you could go, and if you were a small streamer with like 5 concurrent viewers, you could sign up for their affiliate program. You could get all of this branding stuff. You would be sponsored by Artesian Builds. Ooh la la. And in exchange for you putting that stuff on your channel page, if somebody bought a PC through your link, then you would get like 10% of it or something like that. But they didn't provide anything ahead of time. They didn't pay you anything ahead of time for sure. They didn't provide you a PC. They might give you a discount. I think for Artesian, it was that they gave you a discount on a PC you would order from them based on how many PCs you had sold. So if you sold 10 PCs for them, basically, you might get like 25% off of your order when you ordered a PC through them, which is not how any of this should work. Like, you're doing all of the work for them to sell their PCs and you get a coupon to give them money. You're paying to be sponsored by them. How does that make any sense at all? It doesn't. So if anybody ever reaches out to you and it's like, hey, you can be an affiliate, you can put this stuff and you'll be sponsored by us and we'll promote you on our social media pages, whatever. Don't do it. Don't do it. Any sponsorship that's actually worth it is going to pay you. Otherwise, it's not a sponsorship. They're just tricking you into being part of their marketing program. Okay. They reportedly had unaccounted earnings filings. Oh, really? That's not good. That is bad. Yeah. Also, MLMs. Yeah. MLMs are not viable anymore. Like, they're really not necessary. They'll email you and they'll try to convince you that they're necessary. But MLMs come from a time, well, I think I'm thinking of MCNs. MLMs, yeah, multi-level marketing schemes. Yeah, just don't do that. MCNs are multi-channel networks like Machinima used to be. And in the early days of YouTube, they were nice because you could sign up and they would monetize your videos for you before it was really easy to just do that yourself. But now there's absolutely no reason to do that. And if you sign up for an MCN, they will take like 30 to 40 to 50 to sometimes even 60% of all of your revenue for a solid 3 years, and you can't do anything about it. Nothing. You're screwed. I was signed with Machinima for a little while early on. Like, I probably had hundreds of subscribers when I got signed to Machinima, and I felt so official. I felt so cool. Oh, I'm a Machinima creator. You know, I'm Machinima. It's pretty cool. I felt so cool. And it was it ended up being a total waste. And they just took half of any revenue I made, which at the time was like $200 a month, maybe. Like, on a really, really good month, I might get $100 or $200, and they would just take half of it. and do absolutely nothing. They wouldn't respond to emails. They wouldn't respond to any requests for help. They wouldn't respond to anything. It just straight up highway robbery. You sign this paperwork being promised that they're going to help you build your channel, that they're going to give you marketing stuff. They can help you with thumbnails, help you with editing, help you with advice on taxes. They promise all this stuff. You sign up for it, you get nothing, and they take half your money. And then if your channel grows, they still take half. They still take half. It was horrible. Never, ever do an MCN. Yeah, just don't do it. MCNs are making a comeback. The one thing with MCNs is that they give people who have been demonetized a chance at being monetized. So they tend to attract desperate people as well. Like Darkside Phil, he got demonetized on YouTube because he was asking people to click on ads on his videos, which is very much against TOS. You can't do that. But he made videos being like, yeah, make sure to interact with all this stuff as much as you can, and it'll help me out and help me make money. You cannot do that. That is against TOS. You can ask your audience to watch the whole video, to like it if they enjoyed it. You can't ask them to basically commit fraud. That's not allowed. So after he did that, he was demonetized and kicked out of the partner program, or the AdSense account was canceled and shut down. And so he went and signed with a bunch of MCNs who would then advertise on his channels for him, and then he would get paid out from that. So it tends to attract very desperate people. Yeah. DSP lore. Well, speaking of DSP, I just saw this pop up because Matt Pat left. Outlives Matt Pat on YouTube. He can't keep getting away with it, like in Breaking Bad. And TJ Gamebox had a really good point. I forget who said this, but Phil isn't the person who outlasted y'all. He's the guy at the party that refuses to leave, drinks all your beer, passes out on the couch, won't help clean, and won't leave after asking, you got any video games? Which I think is, yeah, it's pretty accurate. It's pretty accurate. It's pretty accurate. Yeah. It's a whole thing. TJ Gamebox is the guy that he plays WWE champions, and then he will compare his performance to DSP's account, and then he can do the math to figure out how much money he spent in the game. It's like actually kind of crazy, his commitment to the whole thing. Like this was the recent thing he posted on January 6th. He was like, okay, this guy is a real problem, like a real problem. I think he's pulling guaranteed just to pull. There's a shard contest. The more shards you pull for the character, the higher you go. And if you get a fuse, you get the shards too. I'm at 810, not buying anything. It's 2,000 to get the item that this event is for. Phil, down from the rafters, this account right here, Phil is at 9,080. It only takes 2,000 to get the thing that this whole event is for. It's like, you know, paying for microtransactions to get a chance of getting the Peter Griffin skin. He got the Peter Griffin skin in Fortnite. He got it, right? And he's still spending money. He can't stop. Like he's got an addiction to it. It's bad. It's real bad. It's crazy. It's real bad. Oh yeah, the Side Scrollers interview is painful. That one's painful. And if this Mike Klum documentary happens, that actually could be the nail in the coffin. That actually could do it. Because I mean, you're going to see a lot of attention come to him. If it does 1 million views, that could be it. Because if Phil opens up the books and shows him like his finances directly like Boogie did, it's not going to take a genius to figure out that I think DSP is writing off his WWE champions expenses as business expense. When it's not used on his business or channel, he's writing this stuff off, these thousands of dollars that he's spending, and he's claiming it's for business. Like, it's outrageous. It's outrageous. Like he'll just hop on and spend like $1,500 on the game like it's nothing. And I think he's writing it off against his business taxes so that he doesn't have to pay anything in taxes for his business. But if he's audited and if it's found that that is being written off, that's tax fraud. probably felony tax evasion because he knows what he's doing. Like the fact that he has the chutzpah to do that is crazy. I'm not like, there is an actual term for it. It's called like an investigatory accountant or a forensic accountant. And there are accountants that just go into the nitty gritty of these like accounts and stuff and track down financial crimes and stuff using that data. If somebody like that gets 10 minutes with Phil's books, I think he's done. Like that's it. Yeah. Did you reach out yet? I have not. I will make a note to email him though. And if he wants me to talk, I can talk. If he doesn't, whatever. Email Mike. I think it'd be fun to talk to him, but yeah. Anyway. Sorry everybody. Sorry. Just buckle up. It's crazy. You know, it just doesn't make any sense. Like if he could claim that he was working on like a massive 15-hour critique video and it was all going to be on WWE Champions and WWE mobile games, and he's been researching this for years and years, and these microtransactions are part of that research, seeing how paying to win affects gameplay and how it can affect somebody's mind state. If he could argue that with a straight face, maybe he could get out of it. But he can't. He claims he doesn't play these games anymore. And then in the recent Side Scrollers interview, he said that he does play the game, just not on that account, and he doesn't spend that much money. And when asked, how much money have you spent on this mobile game? He said, well, not more than 1,000. If you ask me how much money I spent on a mobile game, I'm going to say nothing. Or if it's like I spent $5 for like a skin in Among Us one time to be silly, I'll be like $5, maybe definitely less than 10. If you go right in and you start with, no more than 1,000. So you spent like $900 on this? What? Keemstar offered him $2,000 for one episode of LOLcow Live. Really? The thing with him that's so outrageous is that he claims he's like holier than thou. And so when like the LOLcow Live guys were giving him crap for all this stuff, he said they shop at Walmart. I'm not joking. He said they shop at Walmart. They don't care about the little guy. They don't care about what's best for like the industry or this or that. And like, it's just baffling because it's like, bro, he lives off of Amazon apparently. And then he also like spends all of his money in a mobile game for WWE Champions. Like, you're not actually that holier than thou. Like, you're not actually winning anybody over. Like, what are you talking about, man? What are you actually talking about? Sorry, I'm trying to adjust the monitor. Welcome to Shameful Denial. Sometimes someone reaching out is the first step in a positive direction. That's why, like, honestly, I think if Phil just came out and said, hey guys, so I have a gambling addiction. It's really, really bad. I can't stop and I need help. If he said that, I do think, he'd get a lot of crap, but I think people would generally come out and be like, okay, bro, admitting it is the first step. Let's figure this out. We'll try to help you if we can. He can't do that, for one, because he's extremely stubborn, and two, because if he were to admit that, he's admitting to felony tax evasion. And he's in trouble. He can't admit that. So I think there's no outcome where I see him coming forward and just being like, yeah, sorry guys, my bad. There's no ending of that story where that happens. He can't. Well, dude, what would be hilarious is that I agree, Thin Blue. If he did that podcast, got the $2,000, he would go and spend it on WWE Champions that night And then TJ Gamebox would be able to track it, see that he spent it that night, and then he would still claim that it's a detractor doing it. It's like, bro, it lines up. His official stance is that there is a hater out there who hates him so much, they are willing to spend well over $100,000 on WWE champions to make it look like it's him playing, to make him look bad. That's his official stance. That's what he wants you to believe. Or maybe it's his account and he has gambling addiction. Why is it that like the other day he made a bunch of money? It was like payday on YouTube, or from his tips. He had a really big day of tips on a stream. And so he withdrew all the money and he is streaming. And then he says, okay, guys, I'm going to go take a bathroom break. He gets up, goes to the bathroom, and TJ Gamebox is able to track in real time. He's playing the game right now because there's the leaderboard. You can see the points going up. In the middle of a stream, he's getting up and sitting on the crapper, playing the game, spending money on the game. Like, he has an actual addiction. He will wake up at 3 a.m. to play it. Like, it's on a whole nother level. I know like some people who are pretty deep down the rabbit hole of like cigarette smoking. They can sleep through the night. And that's a real chemical addiction. He is in some serious trouble. Anyway, my God. I just joined. I instantly know this is DSP talking. Yeah. Yeah. And he had a chance to prove it wasn't his account and he didn't do it. Yeah. And now it's too late because people are already saying that he's probably been grinding up a second account for the Mike Klum documentary to be able to see, this is my account. It's not mine. See, this is my actual account. You can see it's not level 1. I didn't just make it. He's been grinding probably a secondary account for a while, preparing for this so that he can try to play dumb. I just hope that somebody's able to go to Mike and show him like, no, DSP said he's been playing this game since like 2017. He doesn't have like a level 15 account. He did this to like screw with you. You know, I did everything right. I did nothing wrong. Yeah. Good, Major. I'm glad to hear that. Good. I'm glad. Yeah, keep with it and don't be afraid of looking up, helpful information. I really think that that's a game. There's no shame in being like, I really want a great axe that's awesome, that does a lot of damage. I don't think there's anything shameful in looking that up and finding some guides to help you along the way, because they really just don't give you any information. And honestly, in D&D, normally when you're like, I really want a great axe, you tell the DM that, and the DM's like, I'll cook something up. And then they craft something for you. So I really don't think that that's bad. Maybe some people will freak out, but I don't know. Oh yeah, can you imagine Ricky if they closed the game down? I think he straight up would probably have a mental breakdown. Let's see. Yeah, don't mess with the IRS. Luke thinks the documentary will go in his favor. No, I don't think so. I don't think Mike Klum is an idiot. I think what Mike Klum has been doing is he's been hyping up DSP to get on his good side so he's allowed to make it. And then when the video actually is put together, it's going to be pretty scathing. Because there's just, every time DSP gets shown to the world, he makes himself look worse. He did a 5-hour interview with the side scrollers, and then he still claims he has never had a chance to tell his side of the story. After 5 hours, you've had time. If you still look super guilty and you still come off as a scam artist, that's on you. And maybe it's because you just are. Maybe you are honestly just a scam artist. You know? Like, what are we doing? Okay, I should actually get to this. I got to do this again. Oh yeah, dude, XP, I freaking love Monster Hunter. I love it. The player count is absolutely insane, so I finally decided to try it, and I'm having an absolute blast. Yeah, my buddy Corey got me into it, and my God, it is so good. It is so good. I freaking love it. That's one that I'll still play regularly. It's so good. I love Monster Hunter. Here's to Monster Hunter Wilds, right? Okay. Shifting gears, everybody. Sorry for all the DSP talk for those of you that are not interested in DSP talk. It's just it's something that is just fun to talk about because it's so insane. It's like reality TV but better, you know? Cuz like reality TV, you're watching train wrecks of people, but they're getting rich. So you feel kind of bad for watching it because you're like, I'm contributing to this becoming more of a problem. With lolcows on the internet, it doesn't matter. Like you're watching a reality disaster and somebody who like deserves all their problems because they've scammed their audience, they've done all this stuff, but they're still broke. And it makes you feel better about yourself, you know? It's just good. Okay. Let's do this. Defiant snort. Okay, that's funny. That's funny. Just I'm picturing it. A defiant snort. Yes. Okay, anyway. Shifting gears. Sorry, Jacob. New segment. Here we go. Star Wars Outlaws. This is a game and I'm sure many of you guys are thoroughly intrigued by. People ask me, Luke, what game are you most hyped for? Dearest Luke Stevens, what game has you captivated? And while you guys know hype makes you stupid, and I would never stoop so low as to be hyped over something, a game that I am actually genuinely interested in is Star Wars Outlaws. And a lot of that is because of these trailers that have dropped. This initial like world premiere trailer revealed that it was coming from Massive Entertainment. And if you don't know Massive are the guys behind The Division. And they just recently did Avatar Frontiers of Pandora. The team doing this is, I believe, the Division team. It's a separate team from the guys that did Avatar. But it seems to be a very epic, huge in scope Star Wars game being put together by a very capable team of developers that have produced some very well-received, very large games. Now, this was the announcement trailer. It was pretty, cinematic. It doesn't really give you any information. And so we all saw this and we're like, okay, I mean, what am I supposed to take away from this? Thematically, it looks cool and interesting. It doesn't look bad, but this doesn't tell us much of anything. I mean, this could be a card game for all we know. Like, we've seen plenty of games that look really cool in cinematic trailers, and then you see the gameplay, you see what it actually is, and you're like, oh, it's a slot machine. So like, it doesn't really give you any real information, but it sets the tone. Thematically, it seems interesting, and she zips off on the speeder bike. They show all this stuff, and it seems interesting, but that's kind of where it was left. We didn't really take much away from this. That was back, let's see, June of 23. And then, like the next day at the Ubisoft Forward event, we got an actual look at the game. An actual look. What a novel idea, right? Getting to see actual gameplay footage. And what they showed off was actually really good. Like, it was so good, it made a lot of people kind of surprised, honestly. They make sure to say work in progress does not represent final quality. Normally, I feel like when we see that, it's because the game is going to look better when it launches. But in this case, when we go through this, it's almost like they're saying it might look worse than this at launch. Maybe. Just don't get your hopes up too much. Culo Monster. Oh my God, he's so cute. He's so cute.
Good boy.
I want that fighter stripped for parts by tomorrow.
And then transition to gameplay.
Right, Nix. Let's go get paid.
For one, immediate thing that jumps out to me, they're playing this in ultra wide. Pretty rare. Not many games do ultra wide for their like previews and demos and stuff. Very interesting. It makes it look more cinematic. That's part of the reason I think that this looks really, really cinematic. But that's one thing that's kind of surprising. Cinematic or ultra wide is just the aspect ratio. In case you're not familiar, this is a standard kind of cinematic aspect ratio, 21:9, or something roughly similar to that. And a normal gameplay is in 16:9, which is the standard for most monitors and TVs. In other words, this full frame that you see on screen right now for the stream, or for the stream clip, if you're watching Lou Stevens live afterwards, would normally be filled with gameplay. But it's ultra wide, so it comes off as much more cinematic. And a lot of people have asked, like, I remember I took a class on, it was in like, I think community college. So it was like an extracurricular, trying to fill in credits however I could. And it was like a film appreciation class that was really interesting. But one of the things that they went through, we spent like a few days talking about it, were aspect ratios and frame rates. Because one of the common things people will often say is like, there's something about going to the movies that just makes it feel like a movie. Watching it on my TV at home just doesn't feel right. And part of that is the scale and the epic nature of it. Part of it is that projectors used in movie theaters are very, very different in how it actually appears to the human eye than television sets are, at least standard television sets that you may have. But also, a part of it is the big screen with the massive aspect ratio that's a little bit thinner, paired with the lower frame rate, is just what we've been conditioned to associate with the cinema experience, right? It's not that 24 FPS is actually the best frame rate. It's just that way back when was literally the lowest frame rate they could go while it's still looking, or with it still looking relatively smooth. Because back then it was physical film. They needed to save physical film, so they lowered the frame rate to get it to that point where it could actually be like used practically. But now it's very different, where we don't have those restrictions. So you can kind of just do whatever you want. It doesn't really matter. However, everybody's grown up associating those lower frame rates and those wide aspect ratios with cinema, with a cinematic look. And so we just associate the two things together. And I think that's part of the vibe that they're going with here. The one exception is we're getting this in 60 FPS. So the game is allegedly running. I don't know if it's running on an actual PlayStation 5 or Xbox, or if it's running on like a PC. The fact that it's ultra wide makes me think it's a PC with a controller plugged in, because I don't know, maybe somebody in chat can correct me. I can't think of a console game that has ultra wide support plugging into the console. I don't think most consoles even have it. So it's probably a PC version of the game running, but still very, very interesting. And the ultra wide aspect ratio, I think, is definitely carefully selected to make it look more cinematic. I think it's an Xbox controller, because X for takedown, I can't imagine they would have X/A be the takedown. It's got to be that. Stabbing us in the back as she's preparing to stab her in the back. So you see that there's an actual companion command system. This to me makes me wonder if it's just our little companion here, or if there's going to be more companions in the game that you can direct and command in this way. That's interesting.
Nice one.
Could lead to some really interesting platforming sections and times when you interact with companions. Little flyover sequence. It also makes me wonder if there's like right there, she dropped down, but it makes me wonder if there's ways to go through these encounters just bypassing combat entirely. Because you see that box just went all the way up here to the left. What if she had jumped off up here and then just walked straight out the door? Because you see, she spotted here because she dropped down like a moron where she shouldn't have. But presumably this crate that you were hanging on, you could have dropped down up on this upper platform and just bypassed combat entirely, which is pretty cool.
I was just leaving. Okay, Okay, we'll figure this out.
Looks like me playing with a controller. Just totally helpless. So this was kind of interesting. There's like blaster modules. You can change different archetypes of damage going out. So it's like one blaster, but it's got 3 different uses that present, like presumably could be adjusted and altered. So that's kind of cool.
This is getting bad. Let's try this out. Dink Ferric.
I want to know, what did she say?
Dink Ferric.
Does anyone know what that means? Can someone in chat Google that real quick? What does that mean? I want to know. What does that mean? Definitely looks upscaled. So the typical giveaways for upscaling, as we've typically seen it with like DLSS or FSR, is with it's a Star Wars curse. Okay. I'm just not basically, goddamn it. Okay. It's just not, I'm not up to date with my Star Wars lore. I'm sorry. I know my name is Luke, but I'm out of it. I'm sorry. Isn't the first swear word in Star Wars universe? Okay. It's just Star Wars swear words. Okay. So the typical giveaway for upscaling in these types of things is going to be in fringe areas, and then also hair is the very common place where you can spot it. You can also usually spot it in like fine gradations of the ground, where like little bitty pebbles and ground textures are trying to be upscaled, and it's just not working very well. This, honestly, I'm not seeing the typical fringing around the model that you would expect to see with an upscaled model like that. Of course, I'm not pixel counting, so I don't know if this is running in native 4K or not, or if this is just like, there's a little. So maybe there is some, but it almost looks like a quality mode. So they might have this running with DLSS or something like that, but it's probably like a quality setting that's pretty high, like going from 1440p up to 4K. It does not look like a really aggressive upscale. We've seen some really aggressive ones with like Jedi Survivor at launch, where they were running that thing at like 900p, upscaling it to 1440, and it's not great. So if there is upscaling, it's minimal, I would guess.
I think that went pretty well, right?
So bear in mind, one of the things I pointed out earlier is that she could have waited to jump off the crate until she was up on the upper landing, stealth taken down that one last guy that was up there, and then walked out here. So presumably there was a way for this combat encounter to go where there wasn't combat, where she just hops on the speeder and runs off to the mission hub and bypasses combat entirely. And if that's the case, I mean, that's kind of the dream. That's what you would hope, is that there's variability. And as we'll see in the rest of this, there's a lot of examples of them making it out that there's going to be a lot of option and agency in how the player approaches these things and how they handle it. And so if they can live up to that expectation, this could be pretty cool. She mounts it. Then we have a speeder bike chase that actually looks pretty good. Lots of data streaming in and out. This is one thing I've always said is really impressive about Ubisoft games. Ubisoft, they are really good at data streaming. They just are. Assassin's Creed games have always been great at this, especially the recent ones, where you can have an actual like eagle or hawk flying above you, and then you warp to its perspective, fly across the country of Egypt, and then within 2 or 3 seconds, snap right back to the player character standing on a pyramid. Like, it's crazy what they're able to stream in and out. They have some really impressive data streaming tech. And this is another example of it. I mean, it allows you to move very quickly, to have a really high density maps and areas while traveling quickly. It's just a great asset to have at your disposal. Now, this also, like, people were asking, oh, Luke, I'm sorry, I didn't make it more than 10 minutes into this without bringing it up. But speaking of space games, this speeder thing, this is all I wanted in Starfield. This is all I was hoping for, was to have like procedurally generated maps, kind of like this, where you have a speeder and you can zip around to go and hunt for loot and cool locations. That's all I wanted. This is all I was talking about. People are like, oh, so you want like dirt bikes and pickup trucks and a cyber truck and stuff? I'm like, no, I just want a speeder bike. That's not like that far out of the realm of possibility in the sense of like a sci-fi game. Like, what are we doing? Sorry. I know, Dave, I'm sorry. I can't not bring it up when we talk about anything star related. But in terms of what we see, pretty big area. Our understanding is, after they've described how this worked, is that these planets that you land on are just going to be basically big maps. Kind of think of how Jedi Survivor or Jedi Fallen Order handled it, where you land on the planet, but it's basically just one big map in a landing area. And honestly, that's the same way that like the Star Wars films kind of handle it. You know, like no matter where they go, they're landing on Hoth, and everything's happening on this one small, like 2-3 square mile area on the entire planet. This is where it's all going down, you know? It just is kind of how it has to be, because when you're dealing with planets, it doesn't really work for stories or for games or films or whatever to have it be like, yes, and there's 650 different military bases all preparing to launch like these escape teams, and they're all launching into space. And because it's the far future / ancient past, long time ago, in a galaxy far, far away, you know, it doesn't really work to be like, yes, and then there's going to be billions of people escaping Hoth and headed off to another planet where 35 billion people are waiting. Like, it just doesn't really work that well. It doesn't align with our experience. So you have to have a singular place where everything goes down. And in this case, I think they're approaching it the same way, where when you land on this particular planet, you're always going to be landing on this big map that's going to be very large, but it's not like you can just circumnavigate the globe or anything. Interesting thing here, Pike Syndicate reputation. This suggests there are factions, a whole faction and reputation system. So presumably the Pike Syndicate is the group that you just were stealing from and that you killed a lot of their friends. And so you robbed them, and now your reputation with them dropped. So there's a reputation faction system working here. That's crazy. I will say here is where you can see some of the fringing that would suggest probably some upscaling, but it's also hard to tell. Excuse me. It's also hard to tell because it's YouTube and things get compressed.
There's Jonta's Hope. We made it, Nix.
What I kind of love about this, though, is that so much stuff is blowing and happening on screen at any given time. Like, the grass is all blowing, the trees are blowing, there's rocks blowing across the dirt path. People on other speeder bikes going over. There's just so much going on all at the same time. You know, it just makes the world feel very, very alive. Hops off the speeder bike. That's a big lizard dog right there. No load screen either.
Hey, Andy.
You're late, Kate. Doc is waiting.
Look how silky that was. Oh, baby. I love the gameplay to cinematic transitions. I love it. I love this stuff. But look how smooth this is.
Hey, Andy.
You're late, Kate. Doc is
Like,
waiting.
come on. Come on. You got to give them credit where it's due. That was smooth. Oh. Man. Oh. That was good. That was good. So like one of the comments, Hatman, this is just too good for Ubisoft. WTF. So that's kind of the core question that's on everybody's minds right now. Everybody's wondering that same thing. Like, this looks too good to be true. Like if this was coming from a Naughty Dog, or if this was coming from Santa Monica, they landed a Star Wars license, could be cool. Could be cool. But like this all seems very, very smooth, very, very good. And we're not really used to seeing that from recent Ubisoft. We're used to seeing kind of the same game recycled over and over again. And that is a very fair question to bring up, I think. But at the same time, this is a game being put together by a pretty fresh team, a group that's done The Division, but has never done this type of game before. So it could be that they're bringing a really cool, novel approach to it. That's very, very possible. They've also had a lot of time. You remember also Ubisoft basically delayed everything after Ghost Recon Breakpoint by like 1.5 to 2 years and suffered serious stock downgrades as a result. Their investors were not happy with them, but they delayed everything to give it extra time, extra polish, make sure when they revealed stuff that it would be revealed, and when they released it, it would be released in the best possible state. We've seen that recently. Mirage was a fun little side project that was actually received really, really well. And it looks like this new Prince of Persia game is probably also going to review really well. And then it also seems like, they're working on AC Red. That's going to be really cool. Avatar, potentially an exception, hopefully. Avatar kind of mixed reviews, but it also seems like it was caught in development hell a little bit because they had so much hand-holding from Disney to do, because working with Disney on any collaborative thing seems like a bit of a headache. Star Wars, I think, is a little bit looser. They seem to be a little bit more flexible with it, specifically because they're working with Lucas games or LucasArts or Lucasfilm games, whatever the official name of it is. Whereas Avatar was working with Lightstorm, which is a different group that doesn't really do a lot of video games. So it's going to be interesting. It's going to be very interesting.
What? Are you worried?
No.
Okay.
No, but you're Troy.
What?
Be careful. Donka's a broker, not a friend. She can't be trusted.
Who can out here? See you back at the ship.
Gotta love the beads.
Round 2 and I still like my odds. K-Vess. Back already.
I mean, the one thing that I'm blown away by is the quality of the depth of field effect. I don't think people understand just how crazy difficult it is to do this. Like, video game engines don't really, like, they're not actually simulating light realistically. They are trying to make it look like they are. So it's a lot of trickery usually that happens. They'll put blurring effects over it and then scale the severity and potency of the blur and adjust that kind of logarithmically based on the distance from the camera and stuff. So there's ways that they can kind of cheese it, but you don't normally end up with a super smooth transition from out of focus to in focus. That is very difficult to do. And that, I mean, it's these little touches that make it look so good and so cinematic, because again, normally you just don't see that in video games. Normally you see a kind of clunky blur and then it's in focus and then clunky blur behind them. So it just looks really, really good.
She's fresh, but she's good.
Who's this?
Just a friend. Join us.
Job was more complicated than you said, Dunka.
You lived. Hey, these aren't toys. They're investments.
Wait. We haven't met.
Don't really know many of you.
Stealing illegal contraband, running with syndicates. I could say you're a threat to the Empire,
You could.
but I won't have to if you're smart.
And then another option for player agency. We saw earlier a faction system with reputations at play. Now we're seeing like options for bribing or not bribing with potentially different outcomes. Because earlier when we escaped the base, it seemed like maybe you could have done that stealthily and not alerted anybody, in which case maybe you get paid better. Does that dialogue change where she says the job was harder than expected? Does she change it to, oh, it was a walk in the park? Does that dialogue change? Like, how much of this is actually flexible versus linear? I'm okay if it's linear. I just hate when games pretend like they're variable, when they pretend like there's player choice, and then there just isn't any. It's one of my frustrations with like Horizon. Because Horizon Zero Dawn and Forbidden West have those dialogue options where they make it into like this, they make you think that you are going to have a different outcome if you're really aggressive or compassionate or kind of snarky, and it doesn't actually matter. It doesn't go anywhere. It just doesn't matter. Exactly, Bulls. It's just the illusion of choice.
Thanks, but I'm smart enough to get myself out of trouble.
You pay the tax just like everyone else.
Whoa, kid, let's just relax.
You won't make it off to Shara alive.
Maybe.
Then you get a credit payout. Presumably you would get less if you bribed her.
We have reports of a fugitive in Georgia's Hope. Move to apprehend.
That's pretty smooth.
That announcement wouldn't be about you, would it?
Could be.
I told you not to trust her.
Uh-oh.
Not the first time we've outrun the Empire.
Run right up and on the ship. A
We
workbench.
need to leave.
Yeah, no kidding.
Sit down. A to take off. It goes into a cinematic. Launches into the atmosphere. And here to be clear, behind my camera, you can see this. This looks to me like a loading screen. And I think this is just like a really elaborate way of covering up the loading screen between planet surface and space. Then through some clouds. Or maybe that's like a wanted level. I don't know. Yeah, you're right, CG James. I think that is just a wanted level.
Nothing on the sensors.
Tashara orbit.
Anybody on the
And then some dogfight action. You also see an option for hyperdrive down here in the bottom left. You have different rockets, the ability to repair your ship as well. Flying all through this old wreckage of ships and stuff for dogfights. It seems very interesting. But I think that this also demonstrates why that fluid transition, there is a load screen technically happening. It's just happening under the hood and in a way that the player is not torn out of their immersion in the game. They're still playing the game the whole time. Yes, they lose control of the ship while it's going out of the atmosphere, but then they're just like, you know, they regain control of it pretty much immediately. Same with this hyperdrive warping away. You're still in the game. That was a load screen, and now we're here. And honestly, like if you count the amount of time from when it starts, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, basically 12 fast seconds, which is probably longer than the load screens in Starfield are on average. And yet this seems so much better just because it doesn't take you out of the game. It keeps you in it. it just covers up the load with like a little bitty transition in a way that's satisfying and interesting. And then we get another cutscene that looks pretty good. I mean, the whole game looks coherent. It looks cohesive. It's clear there's a vision here. There's a tone that's being struck that seems consistent. There are interesting worlds to explore, very different maps, different combat encounters. The combat looks actually kind of interesting with different archetypes for your gun. There's a workbench for upgrading and changing stuff. It actually looks pretty good. Graphically, it looks really, really good. Like, there's really not much to complain about. And I think this is broadly the point that a lot of people have raised, is just it looks almost too good. And so for Ubisoft with this, I think that they are onto something. I think if this actually lives up to the hype, this could actually be like a huge game for this year. I really do think so. I think you could see this game just blow up if it actually lives up to that quality standard. If this thing gets reviewed and ends up with like 9s, a handful of 9s, it could easily end up in that discussion for Game of the Year at the end of it. You guys remember Assassin's Creed Odyssey got nominated against God of War and Red Dead Redemption 2? 2018 was a crazy year, man. I could see this, if it reviews well, being in the same category, same discussion, because it's a huge IP. The game already looks really good. The interest is definitely there. They just have to live up to that expectation. Imagine Ubisoft getting Game of the Year. Yeah. Massive is like the Insomniac games of Ubisoft. Yeah, they have done a really good job. I think Avatar was a tough one for them, because when I went to that preview event, when we talked to the devs, like, of course they can't say it's been really tough to make this game because dealing with Lightstorm's been a headache. But I got the vibe that that's kind of what they were saying, because anytime they wanted to do anything, they had to go to Lightstorm, which is the company that James Cameron owns that makes the Avatar films. They had to go to Lightstorm, explain why they wanted this done, how they wanted it done, and go through all these reasons. And then there was like a multi-week process of sending ideas and revisions back and forth. And the Lightstorm team, they're making the like Avatar 3 right now. And then I think there's another movie after that that's also happening. So they're very, very busy, and they're trying to also throw in this stuff for the games. And it just seems like it was a bit of a headache, because they wanted to do all this great stuff for Avatar. And anytime they had a single idea, they had to wait basically a month to get a green light to start working on it. So that's why I think the game took so long. That is a game that probably should have released like 4 years ago. But as a result of the slow the slow development process, I think it just was stretched out. And that's why so much of Avatar Frontiers of Pandora feels like a game from like 2019, 2020. It doesn't actually feel like their current modus operandi. So it's going to be really interesting to see how this plays out. But so far they've done it right. I feel like the responses to the previews have been very positive. And if you just go through some of the reviews or some of the comments, like 3.8 million views, almost 3.9 million just 6 months ago. It's the most interest in a Ubisoft game in a minute. And then, see that weird distortion that was just popping up on screen? I've been having that happen on all of my web browsers. I don't know what it is. I updated all my drivers. It just kind of glitches like that every once in a while. So yeah, people are saying they love the detail with the reputation system. This is looking pretty good. My only changes I'd like to see is the gun should be punchier. Each shot hits harder, gives more feedback, and the vehicles should feel faster. I don't know, the vehicles felt pretty fast. I bet when you're playing it, it's also feels really fast. They kind of float forward rather than speed through the environment, at least with the current perspective. Otherwise, this is looking pretty good, and I can't wait to see the finished product. I think it's probably feels different when you're controlling it, because that's true of a lot of games. When you're playing the game and you're like playing the vehicle, it feels very different than when you're actually just watching it, you know? So the glitch is Chrome related. This is Opera though. This is not Chrome. I have the same thing with GX, just a Chromium being Chromium. Oh, because it's a Chromium like foundation. Okay, I see what you're saying. Yeah, it's been happening on Chrome and on Opera. So I was like, oh, maybe it's just a Chrome issue, but I guess it's just a Chromium thing. So yeah, makes sense. Hate it. I hate it. So yeah, finally a game where you don't play as a Jedi or a soldier. I hope this has a lot of crime theme to it with bounty hunters, mercenaries, the Hutts, and the Spice Cartel. Oh yeah. This is amazing. I'm so happy you can exit planets just like that and fly on them. Too bad Starfield doesn't have that. A nice detail I would want to see in the release is having a hyperdrive jump lines line up with the stars, as I believe that's what those lines are. Oh yeah, that'd be cool. That'd be super cool. I'm having a hard time believing this is a Ubisoft game. It looks too good. 17,000 upvotes. Like, but that is exactly the point. That is exactly the point. People see this and they're so used to Ubisoft games being just kind of mid that this is like surprising a lot of people. So if they can pull this off, this could be a whole, like the jump start for a whole new generation of next gen, or I guess now current gen Ubisoft games, where people are seeing this and it's just like they are using their amazing tech and they give their teams time. Maybe it might also I mean there's other options as well. Maybe this is that good and it's a one-off fluke. You know, maybe it's just that this is amazing. It's just the one game that kind of got lucky and they figured it out. It worked out really well. Players loved it, but nothing else they do is that great. Or it doesn't live up to this expectation. Who knows? What I will say is that over the last decade, we've gotten kind of used to Ubisoft being viewed in a certain light. But back in like the late 2000s, Ubisoft was making some of the biggest games of the year. Ubisoft was making games that were commonly in the contention for the unanimous best game of the year. They were at the top of the heap back in the late 2000s. And then through the 20 teens, they kind of had some struggles here and there. And they were trying to get their footing under them. And they've certainly wasted a lot of time and a lot of money on projects that didn't pan out. But it's not impossible to think that they could come back. It's not out of the realm of possibility. It's very possible. Fresh, thank you also for the $10 super chat. Very generous. I think this game is going to sell like Hogwarts, and I think it may release in September or November. Also, do you think we may get a disc collector's edition? Disc collector's edition, I'm not sure. I do think we'll see a collector's edition. It just seems like a layup. Ubisoft's typically done a really good job with those, so I would expect that they probably do that. And as for sales, I think it's going to be hard to beat Hogwarts Legacy just because Hogwarts is Harry Potter is such a huge franchise. It's ridiculous. And that game was the first game like that for that fan base. We've had other narrative third-person adventure Star Wars games. This just looks like a potentially really good one. With Harry Potter, we had never gotten a game that's just like an open world game where you're playing as a student and you can explore the castle freely. That alone was enough for a lot of people to want to buy the game. Like I remember people saying before the launch, like on the subreddit, they're like, even if the game sucks, I don't care. I just want to explore the castle. I just want to do that. That's all I want. If I have to pay $60-$70 just to explore Hogwarts Castle myself on my PS5, I'll do that. I don't care. Even if the game sucks, I'll still be happy. And that's a level of interest in the franchise that I just don't think Star Wars Outlaws has going for it. But I could see this selling like, 5 to 10 million copies if it reviews well. Even if it doesn't review super well, even if it's like an 8 out of 10, I still see this selling pretty well, I think. Like Jor said, Hogwarts is more accessible to all people versus Star Wars, weirdly enough. Some people still think it's geeky. Yeah, I think that's part of it. And it's also just that there's been a lot more content around Star Wars. Like, Star Wars fans have had an ocean of content to feast on basically for 40 years. And Harry Potter, they had the movies and then some like spin-off games that were terrible. And then they had like another trilogy of movies that weren't very good. But like, that's kind of it. Like, they've done some mobile games and stuff, but like, that's basically it. You have the movies, the theme parks, and that's all that people can kind of agree is good about the Harry Potter franchise, is those things. Whereas And I mean the books. You have the books, movies, and but books / movies are kind of the same thing. It's the same stories. So I think that there's just been a glut for Harry Potter fans, and then they got this great feast before them in the form of Hogwarts Legacy. So it did very well. Whereas Star Wars, I just don't think is. Fans have had plenty, to go at. Not great recently, but they've had stuff. What are you thinking for a release date? I think, they're saying 2024. They're still saying it's this year. There were rumors that it was going to try to squeeze into this fiscal year, which means before March. I don't see that happening. I think that this gets a pretty lengthy marketing campaign behind it. So I'm guessing holiday. I would not be surprised if this was like a November release right before the holidays. And, they really go balls to the walls with the marketing on it. That would be my expectation. So I'm expecting holidays. This will be their big game. But the other thing to consider, they have Assassin's Creed Red for this year. So you could presumably get a huge Assassin's Creed game in like September to October, and then Star Wars Outlaws in like November, December. That's possible. 2 huge Ubisoft games, basically back to back. And what I will say is when we went to that media event for Avatar, I met with a lot of the marketing team at Ubisoft. Delightful people, super sweet, love them to death. And like the team that works on the marketing for Avatar, they move on and they start working on the marketing for Prince of Persia, and then they move on and work on the marketing for whatever comes next. I think Skull and Bones after that. Like they just move from thing to thing to thing, from release to release to release. So they're probably not doing 2 huge marketing campaigns at the same time. They're probably focused on one, get that done and out the door, and then move on to the next one, which probably means that they want a couple of months between, I would think. So that would probably mean that we get like maybe September for Assassin's Creed and then November for Star Wars, or vice versa. Either one of those I think could work. But we'll see. Potentially Star Wars Outlaws versus Indiana Jones versus AC Red. Potentially, yeah, because Indiana Jones is supposed to be this year, basically. So there's going to be some real competition, I think. It's going to be a crazy, crazy winter and fall. I don't think it's really hit people just how busy it's going to be. I do think that from like probably April, May, somewhere in there, to probably August, there's not going to be much at all. So I've got to start budgeting. But there's really not going to be that much to talk about or cover. But I do think that once we hit the fall, it's going to be kind of a mad rush. Don't forget Far Cry 7. Yeah, I think did they say 24 or 25 for that? I thought that might still be a little ways out. I'm not sure. What do you think about the rumor that Indiana Jones is going to be a mix of first and third person? That's what Joraptor was saying, and it's because like some of the designers, like Todd Howard, said that it was like a genre bending experience. It was going to be like half this genre, half that genre. And if those genres are like, it's half shooter, half adventure game. It's like, okay, so it's an adventure shooter. That's not that novel. Or maybe he means half first person shooter, half third person adventure game. Maybe that's what he means. I don't know. But we're going to find out very soon. We're going to find out. Todd Howard said, okay, I'll plug my ears now. Yeah. He's an executive producer on it, which might just be the best position for him. Honestly, like it might actually be the best spot for Todd Howard, is to not be the guy making those big, like the day-to-day decisions on it, but just giving like, I think it would be cool if, and then just leave it there. We still haven't gotten anything from Red, and it's supposed to come out this year. We've gotten a split-second teaser. Yeah, but like I said, it's the same marketing teams. So I think we'll start to see a lot of it once they've kind of cleared off Prince of Persia, and probably Skull and Bones once that's out the door, and they can kind of move on and focus on the next big things, which is going to be like X-Defiant, Star Wars Outlaws, and AC Red. Once they can focus on those, I think we'll see more. And I'm sure we'll see deep dives during the summer at their Ubisoft Forward event. But right now, it just doesn't really make sense to show stuff. Just doesn't really make sense. Indiana Jones's Xbox is Uncharted? Maybe. Everybody assumes that, but it might also just straight up be a first-person shooter. Like, I know that might not be what you're thinking it is or what you want it to be, but it's also coming from Machine Games, who made Wolfenstein. Like, they kind of specialize in first-person shooters. So it would be a little surprising to see them do something just totally different, like a third-person adventure game. Maybe that's exactly why they're doing it, because they wanted to do something different, but who knows? Whip Simulator. Oh, man. I have a feeling AC Red gets delayed to 2025, TBH. Maybe. I don't think they need to, and it seems like they have been targeting 24 for a long time, so I think that they're probably hitting that date. I wouldn't expect them to just delay it, because I don't think they need to. Maybe it gets delayed into like the spring, but they're definitely releasing it this fiscal year. Indiana Stein. But we'll see. I mean, maybe they do delay it. Who knows? Maybe. Crazier things have happened, but many of the devs previous to Wolfenstein worked on Starbreeze, on The Darkness, and the Chronicles of Riddick: Escape from Butcher Bay, and Assault on Dark Athena, which mixed first and third person. So maybe it could work. It could work. One of the things I'm weirdly interested in is knowing whether they do, like, you know, if it's an Indiana Jones game. Presumably you're playing as Indiana Jones. So are they going to do like a silent protagonist where they just are like, yeah, you're Indiana Jones, but we're not going to have you say anything. We're just going to do cutscenes or maybe dialogue options from there, but you read it off. Or do they hire like a voice actor to try and sound like Harrison Ford? I can never really stand it when they do that. Or is it like an alternative universe where it's like, this is Indiana Jones, but he looks different and sounds different? I don't know how they do it. I don't know how they do it. Do you think cloud gaming is the future of gaming, especially because of countries in South Asia and China, etc.? I mean, especially if the push towards like AI controlled NPCs and stuff becomes more robust, pretty much half the computing for these games is going to be happening in the cloud anyways. So I could see that being a thing, but I will just say, like, in the US, there's a long way to go before that happens. Our internet infrastructure is such a joke. Like, if I pay, what I wanted is I wanted to get gigabit Ethernet, 1 gig up, 1 gig down. That's all I wanted. It's fiber. They have it all over, like Korea. They have it all over some cities in the States. It's kind of the new standard. I wanted fiber. They wanted to charge me $80,000 to do it. They wanted to charge me to run the fiber to my neighborhood. And then they were going to go around to all my neighbors and then offer them fiber for like $100 a month or whatever it would be. But they wanted me to pay to bring it to the neighborhood, basically. It's like, what? No. It's like, I don't need it that bad. So like, no part of that made sense. But straight up, like, that's what a lot of the internet infrastructure is like in the States. There's just no push for them to provide better service. You have to basically go to a brand new neighborhood where they just installed fiber from day one and get it that way. But if you live in any neighborhood that had the core infrastructure laid down like 10, 20 years ago, nope. They're like, no, you can pay for it. It's ridiculous. That's actually insane. Yeah. Because I've told the story on stream before, but they were like, well, it's going to be like $1,800 for all of that. It's like, okay. So $1,800 split up over like a 2-year contract. They're like, no. $1,800 a month for however long. Like, ridiculous. It's like, I'm not paying $1,800 a month for years and years and years under a contract. Like, and then I asked him, like, and then fiber would be run to the neighborhood, right? Because then you would have run the cabling and then you could then provide it to the neighborhood. And like, yeah, we could do that. That's my understanding. It's like, so you're just having me pay to do what you should be doing anyway. You're having me pay to bring fiber to the neighborhood. Well, no, it's just if you want it now, you know, our development maps are a little backed up. And it's like, bro, it's just so crazy. Yeah, that's because the two internet companies split up the US map and don't compete with each other. Yeah, I mean, that's basically what it is. There is zero competition, zero incentive for them to figure it out. So they just don't. They just don't. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. It's why, like, for our next house, it's going to be like, it's very important. I want fiber. I've wanted fiber forever. I need fiber. I want it. Remember digging a path from the road to the house, then they could plug us into the system. Yeah. It's like, this is kind of like your deal. Like you guys are the ones making money on this. Why am I paying for you to do what you should be doing anyways? Yeah, you can just pay us for the internet infrastructure for the neighborhood. Yeah, it's just no part of it makes any sense. It's like, oh yeah, I'll do that out of the kindness of my heart. Here you go. Comcast, Xfinity. Here's money. You need more. Goodness. I even have fiber in South Africa. I mean, it's just, that's what I mean is like, for all these companies, they're like, cloud gaming's the future. Like, I get that makes sense if you have fiber. If you have 1 millisecond latency and a gig up, gig down, yeah, totally makes sense. I can see why it would make sense to like stream everything. You don't need the big PC. Just let the servers do it. It's indistinguishable because you can stream 4K 60 with like flawless compression at AV1. Makes sense. But you have to have fiber. Like you can't do that with 50 megs up, or not even up, like 10 megs up, 30, 40 down. We were looking at a house in a pretty nice neighborhood, but it was a neighborhood built primarily in like the 70s and 80s. The best, and I'm so glad I checked this before we like really got serious about the house. The best internet they could possibly provide to that address, and I'm not joking, was 30 megabit per second download and 5 upload. 30 down, 5 up. To put that in perspective, I could not be streaming this right now on that speed because we do 6 megabit per second upload to actually stream this. I couldn't stream. I'd have to stream in like 720p, 30 FPS. Yeah, might as well use data. I would be better served using a mobile hotspot. And I asked them, I was like, can you just double check that? Because that seems insanely low. And they're like, well, it's just an old infrastructure and it's all based on copper and blah. And they gave me whatever excuses. And I was just like, bro, it's just. Yeah, Samuel, I'm from Germany and the internet here is horrible. There's barely any fiber. I literally live in the middle of a city and only get 10 megabit per second download. Yeah, all of these places, that's why like, I know in some places elsewhere in the world, the speed's better, but in the States, especially, people assume that the States are really up to date technologically. And a lot of these companies saying that cloud gaming's the future, they assume that, well, they're based in the US. So you would think that they would be in tune with what the US is capable of, but it's just not. Like once gigabit up and down becomes standard, then the next upgrade is going to be like 10 gig Ethernet up and down. Like it'll be great. But we have a long way to go before we get there. And once we get to that standard where gig is normal, then we can talk about it, but they've got a lot of work to do. I live in Israel and I have 1 gig download, 500 up. Yeah. Yeah. Well, and Fearful Nest, it's not even megabyte per second. It's megabit per second. It's worse than that. It's even worse than that. Amazingly enough. Because they'll kind of try to trick you and make it sound really good and be like, wow, you get like a gigabit, 1,000 megabit download. And it's like, yeah, I mean, it basically comes out to like, probably 9,500 megabytes per second, whatever. I mean, whatever it ends up being in practical use, right? Doesn't sound that sexy in comparison. Starlink, I've looked into Starlink. The problem is latency. Like, depending on where you are in the world, it can be like 50, 60, 70 millisecond latency. So it's fine if you're watching videos, if you're answering emails, doing stuff like that. But if you want to play games, if you want to stream, it's just not really that viable. What's my internet? I have the best that I can possibly have in this neighborhood. And I am a business account. So I get the business tier stuff. And I have gigabit down. And the max I can do up is 40. In practice, usually it's more like 750 down and like 30 up is normal. And I pay $280 a month for that. And it's the only option. There's no other option. No, I have my own modem and own router and stuff. I'm actually thinking of upgrading to the Eero 7, the new ones. Because they just dropped those Wi-Fi 7 routers. Yeah. You got to write it off, Chief? Yeah, that's what we're doing. It's outrageous. But that is literally the cheapest you can get it. And it's the only way to get that speed where I live. Yeah. Yeah. It's crazy. So anyway, it's a whole thing. What I think I'm going to do, guys, I think we'll call the stream there. I think I'm going to go to the urgent care and just see if I can get some like antibiotics or something for my ear, because my voice is still all screwed up. And I'm worried if it's not an ear infection that just won't heal, that it's something else. And I should probably figure that out sooner rather than later. So I think we'll call it there. And I will go heal myself. Go watch the new video on Baldur's Gate. Put it up Monday. So go check that out if you've not seen it yet. Or I put it out yesterday, actually, not Monday. So go check that out. I'd appreciate that. We will be back Friday to stream, and we'll have plenty more to talk about then. It'll be great. I'm also finalizing the schedule with my wife, the real boss, to add an extra day of streaming each week, where we're going to be doing more casual streams, but also member-only streams and sub-only streams on Twitch. So if you are a financial supporter, then you get a little extra kickback. So just wait for that. It's going to be great. Thank you, Mr. Boogle. Thank you. Who knows? I might need it. I'm hoping it's just like, oh yeah, you have an ear infection. Here you go. You take these pills. You'll be fine in 3 days. I hope that's what it is. But it's been like a week. You guys remember last week on the podcast, my voice sounded screwed up. And it still is like this a week later. So I'm like, it hasn't healed itself. I'm a little worried. So I'm just going to go do it and see what happens. Fingers crossed. Will you ever do Let's Plays? Yeah, if we add in extra streams, we'll definitely be able to play more games. Right now, it's just we have to go through enough topics to make content for like Luke Stevens Live, like clips. So by the time we get through all of that and I'm done like with ADHD rambles, the stream's over. So once we have more time, I think we'll be able to go through more games. Absolutely. So thank you all. I love you all. Appreciate you. You guys are wonderful. Go check out the new video, blah, blah, blah. I forgot what else I was saying. I'm bad at outros. Stay safe, everybody. I love you dearly. We'll talk soon. Much love. Bye-bye.